Hi, my name's Bob Greenyer, and I'm a volunteer with Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. So, welcome for joining me this 12th February 2023 for O Day. Mourning, not morning. Can everyone hear me? Okay, it actually says not getting enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So, let me just see what's going on there. Okay. I need to make sure this is going to be working because it's about. I'm actually quite nervous about doing this. So I've got a poor stream data, it says here at the moment. I don't know why. Let me just see if I can work this out. I am fine. Yeah, it might just be because it's a static shot. Okay. All right, you say it sounds good. I want to thank Henk Uren for sending me an image of his working Geet, although it wasn't working. I haven't managed to upload it yet, so sorry, Hank. Give me a second. So yeah, the picture in the background there, I had to go and spend £180 to buy that because it's off Getty Images. And that gives the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project 15 years of use of this image. Now, it is from... and I'm going to forget it now. That's not very good, is it? Who can guess it? It's from the Christian group that came out of Egypt. So God, I had that right at the top of my head. I'm quite tired actually. Okay, so it's saying my stream is healthy. Okay, good, excellent. Saying no data but stream is healthy. That's a bit odd. All right. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there. So I will be discussing this, and I will be explaining it in its entirety. But you can see, yeah, Coptic Christians, Gordon. Yes, that's exactly the word I was looking for. Now, in the center of these two pillars, you can see an alpha and omega, the beginning and the end. Okay? And hopefully by the end of this, you will understand what I've been blathering on about for so many years. It needs to be completely, blatantly obvious. This is a natural force. It is the underpinnings of nature. And like I say, I'm very nervous about doing this presentation. Okay, but we don't have any choice at this stage. So before going too much detail into that, I want to talk about the most important text in the Hindu faith, and that's the Bhagavad Gita. And one of its most important learnings is on expectation. And now I did write a blog, but I hadn't finished writing it yesterday. I thought I'd better get on with what I'm going to talk about today. But what you can see there in the sort of Sanskrit type Hindi writing there is from chapter 2, verse 47. And it says, you have only right to thine actions, never to the fruits. Let not the fruits of action be thy motive, nor let thy attachment be to inaction. So what that is saying there is that you have the right to do things. Nay, you have the duty to do things that you should do, but you have no right to expect a particular return for those acts. You shouldn't only do something because those acts you expect to give you some fruit, something coming back to you. You should just do them. And if you didn't think you were going to get the fruits, then you shouldn't let that stop you doing what you can do. I.e., because you're not going to get paid, you don't do what is possible. And I will, in my blog, when I finished it, probably early part of next week, I will talk about the various experiences in my life that taught me this lesson, and why some people just don't understand why I do what I do. We are in a spiritual war right now. And the little g, the God's toolbox, is being used against us. It was clear in 2017 that that had already been the case, and that they would stop at nothing to prevent this technology from coming to the fore. Right now, the inflation was announced yesterday or the day before in the Czech Republic has reached 23%. 23%. Your money halves in short order, like within a year and a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, when you have inflation at that high. There's all kinds of places shutting up shop. Okay? And essentially it comes down to one act of state terrorism. That is the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline. But what happened this last week is of deep, deep concern to me, because it shows the game that is afoot. What am I talking about? I am talking about this. Now, sometimes when you hear of a so-called natural event, you think, oh, isn't that sad? Isn't it terrible? Let's send some money. Let's help them out. And you know where that natural event was? It was here. A major interchange of oil and gas pipelines coming out of Iraq and co-fed to terminals from Iran and from the Caspian Sea. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. If they cut off these pipelines that go up to, that they are the feed into southern Europe and up through Romania and feeds into other pipelines. If they cut off these pipelines, 23% will look like the good days. I'm a little bit annoyed right now. I'm a little bit annoyed. I've already spoken at length how this could occur. It's in here in this book that was written by Thomas Bearden in 1986. 1986. This is the 2002 edition. And it talks about it. Here's Khrushchev's second demonstration in 1963, my friends. In 1963, they have photos of it. Photos of it, yes. Yes, photos of it, right? Deep underwater electromagnetic explosion on the 11th of April, 1963. And he says it's electromagnetic, but it's a deep underwater nuclear burst, demonstrating some water phenomenology produced by Khrushchev's second demonstration. Khrushchev's first large, full-up, strategic, longitudinal electromagnetic wave energetics interferometer weapon became operational on-site by April 1st, 1963. A few days later, Khrushchev employed it to kill the USS Thresher atomic submarine underwater off the east coast by US by simply creating electromagnetic noise in an interference zone placed on, in, and around the sub underwater, and thus jamming the sub's electrical controls so that it could not be controlled. The helper sub sank to crush depths and imploded. The USS Skylark on the blah blah blah. That is doing something through sea around the planet. But he goes on and talks about how the electromagnetic weapons progressed to being able to trigger earthquakes. And he gives us specific examples of earthquakes that were triggered and how they go about to a degree. So it is with great dismay that I read this, which I'm going to get for you. Now, I can't read it all because there are laws in the Czech Republic that say that if I read certain things that this politician said, I can face 3 years in jail. But this here is Senator Diana Livanovici, and she is, if I've got the name right, she is a Romanian senator. Okay, and I need to be careful which bit I read. Okay, I go and look for the full transcript of this, I urge you. 150 aftershocks of a devastating earthquake, the second larger than the first, without the existence of an epicenter. The area being artificially stimulated. Geological weapons having existed for a very long time, being used so far without causing too many casualties, probably for experiments. Now it has been put into practice. If we look carefully at the map of Turkey, we will see that it is furrowed by gas and oil pipelines. This being actually one of the goals, their destruction. But 10 seconds before the occurrence of the so-called earthquake, the Turks closed these pipelines. In addition, 24 hours before the earthquake, 10 countries withdrew their ambassadors from Turkey. 5 days before its occurrence, the Romanian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a travel warning for Romanian citizens in Turkey, although there was no danger, as did other countries. By killing people, they served their interests. The maps shown on all television channels show that there was no epicenter, but the line with thousands of earthquakes. You have to read the rest of the article. That is the only segment I'm going to read today. If this gets cut off, Europeans will kill each other, frankly, because they won't be able to afford anything. They won't be able to heat, they won't be able to cool, they won't be able to travel. Okay? We are in a spiritual war. And we cannot expect to get anything for our labours. The government aren't going to come and save us. The word comity means a group of nations working together for the common good. And if you insert RNA into the word comity, what do you get? You are in World War III. It's happening all around you right now. You must wake up. It was inevitable. And perhaps you will understand the significance of what I'm going to share tonight. It's difficult to know where to start. I have to find one other image first, which I couldn't find earlier, so you're going to have to talk amongst yourselves. But by way of an introduction, that's where I want to start it. But I'm pretty certain that you will understand explicitly what we are talking about here, that it is a reality, that you can do these things and much more. Terrible, terrible, terrible weapons. But also the gift that has been taken from us in this particular cycle of rediscovery. As I said at the beginning in March 2017, they will stop at nothing. They will use the scorched earth policy. We're in one part of the game. Don't let them bring in the phony alien invasion. Let's not have that. None of that game, please. Right? Before what happened over the last recent years, I wrote a Steam It blog detailing how I thought it was going to go down. But this is next level. They are literally going through with it. So you guys have to know the implicit truth, the alpha and omega. You have to know And I'm going to do the best I can tonight. Like I say, this is a difficult thing for me to do. Okay? But I do want O'Day morning, not morning. You can talk amongst yourselves about where the Coptic Christian faith came from and what you think you're seeing on this screen here. Nothing at all on this carving is by coincidence. It is science. It is science explicitly carved with exquisite accuracy. So bear with me. I'm going to see if I can start where I wanted to start. Actually, I'm going to read something else, actually. So I spoke with a distributor, a person who had paid up and had a good relationship with the Pantone family. I tried to buy Pantone's book, but it wasn't available on Amazon. There was a link to a scribed version of the document, and where I am reading this from now. So I think this is, I don't know which page it is, but anyway, this is Paul Pantone. My contribution was only for small engines up to 20 horsepower. People violated my free plan stipulations and efforts from day one. Many people began installing it on big trucks, ships, motorcycles, and even a helicopter with no intent of making any donation or paying any royalties. These people felt they could hide in the woodwork and I would not know what they were doing. But they were very wrong. And at the bottom of the drawing, I had asked that anyone who got these plans and produced one that ran, please donate what they could afford to help the inventor out, so I could get more information out to mankind quickly. I'm sorry to say that I only received $105 from one person in America and one person in Europe. Later, I talked to many of the people who took my plans and put them on their websites, seeking donations on their own names. Some boasted of raising thousands of dollars on their site. Now, with copyrights in place, I will get them to remove any links seeking funds for their private clubs by using my technology. It is hard to want to help people when the only response from them is to give them more. It has been 16 years since I gave away my original plans, small plans, and still I get emails from every day from people who want a free kit, engine, or generator. Maybe times have changed so much that I've lost touch with reality. When I was growing up, if you wanted something, you went out and earned it. If somebody gives you free plans to build something and it works, you send them something, even if that is just a thank you letter. The people who responded in a positive way gave me some encouragement that there were folks out there who really do care about this planet. I must admit, most of the responses were purely from people who want to save money. I have no problem with that, since I know it will help clean the planet. In the giveaway of the original plans, I told people to use a 12-inch ferrous metal rod with detailed instructions on how to weld on 3 little tabs to each end so that you could center the rod whilst it was running. These tabs on each end make it a vaporizer, and you can expect to receive about 30% increase in mileage. For many people, that was very beneficial enough. Although the free plans were only for small engines, I was working on large engines, which were over 500 horsepower. Some of these engines were 6 feet tall and 14 feet long, with 7-inch pistons. The scientists and engineers who came and saw Geet working were only looking at small engines, and they assumed I was not aware that the same technology could be used for big engines like ships or huge generators. When others saw the potential, most would not say a word to me, so they could supposedly capture the market without any royalty or recognition. Now, I saw the Randall, is it Carlson and the Bendel. There was a presentation given on Friday. I saw it last night, and it talks about this so-called thunderstorm device or whatever. When I look at it, it's basically, as far as I can see, variations on a Geet. They've got some sort of Joe cell or whatever doing electrolyzer to add a bit of HHO into the mix, and it would appear that they've got a PAP cylinder type heads. I don't know whether they're all in the same thing. It looks like they were, throwing mud against the wall and seeing what sticks, but it looks like that they've gone with a Geet. And as I was describing, like Leclerc created transmutation to all the elements in the periodic table by taking a hydrosonic pump and pumping it into a lower pressure volume. And as it went into the lower pressure volume, he then forced it through ring holes in an aluminium sheet, and he got the formation of diamonds and other elements in the periodic table. This is going into this low pressure zone. The innovation that I can see in that device is they've just expanded out the low pressure zone into a sphere, so that the ball lightning has more room to operate, as it were, than the standard Geets. Now, I don't know whether this was a design in more advanced Geets, but I think it's not good form. It is not good form that the claimant here is not giving credit to Pantone. It's interesting to see that Randall Carlson is using Rank Hirsch, as I discussed last year, being key to this sort of family of technology. And I was talking about that long before this came along. So anyway, so the point being is they should expect nothing. Why? Because you have these what look like bitter comments, and that's not my sort of review. The reviews on Amazon of Paul's book is that it is, it's a lot of bitter commentary in there about how he was done over. Now, the intention with the Strike Foundation, which interestingly enough has a ring and a spot as its symbol, of course it would do, then the thing about that is they are intending to sell licenses, okay? This is basically what Paul did. It didn't work for the last 30 years. I don't think it's going to work now. Yes, they're up against a lot. But do not underestimate what they will do to prevent you having oil and gas. They will literally blow up a pipeline, right? Okay? That pipeline dumped 400,000 tons of methane into the atmosphere. Now, let's put that in context. That is 80 times more damaging than CO2 at 400,000 tons. So we're talking many millions of tons. If you do the math, it works out as being, if you take an American is using 16 tons of carbon a year, it works out, I think it's like, whatever, it works out something like 2 million Americans, or 16 million or something Indians or whatever. It's something like that. Maybe 32 million. Anyway, let's say it's Americans' average annual use. It's 2 million man years worth of of global warming, so-called thing, damage to blow up that pipeline. It's only actually 2 million man years. 2 million man years. So if you think of the population of Europe and America, it's not really a very big amount. Yes, 400,000 tons of methane sounds a lot. Times that by 80, it sounds like a lot of CO2 damage-wise. But still, we're only talking about 2 million man years. However, the person that authorized that does not have the right to say we should be doing X, Y, and Z, not having gas stoves, not doing, not driving our cars so much, not flying. They do not have a right. They have lost all legitimacy to be able to make that judgment over us. They've lost all legitimacy. It's not all going to be a rant today. But this is what Paul Pantone got wrong. Yes. He had, I think in his book he says he had 400 or 500 failed attempts to make things more efficient and less polluting. And then he had one success. And he felt it was his duty to get it out there. But, he put these restrictions on things. I'll teach you, but you then have to go and teach people. You get the right to go and teach. It's almost a kind of pyramid structure. And to be fair, this was born out of the 70s oil crisis. It was born out of the desire to, make a more efficient engine, less polluting. And it was in the Cold War period, where if you thought you had something smart, you weren't going to be giving it to the other side, as it were, right? But it's a Pyrrhic victory for someone to have something and for someone else to not be helping the planet along. It's a Pyrrhic victory if you're not using much energy, but everyone else is. Because if you are to believe that the environment is going to be denuded or the atmosphere is going to be damaged, then you've got to help them not do that as well. So he expected to get returns. He writes that he expected and he didn't get it, and he obviously felt affronted by that. And I expect there will be the same thing with the Thunder machine or whatever it's called. It sounds a bit like Centilli's device. Centilli never got anywhere, or certainly it's not obvious that those machines by Centilli are installed everywhere. Okay? But we absolutely cannot expect the people that are blowing up pipelines and trying to damage other sources of energy to help us along this journey. We have to do this ourselves. We have to do it ourselves. So, hi Corky, hi Gordon, hi FPV Angel, Drew Duncan, Lucas, hi Alex Del Castillo. Yes, nobody can own this tech. No one can own this tech. Right? Bendel is Geet creating wares. Yes, it is. It's just Geet. And it is disingenuous. It is disingenuous for them to pretend that they've got something new. They haven't. They haven't. Okay, so they put a bulb on the end because maybe that part of their reactor kept melting, so let's make it a bit bigger. That actually increases the drop in pressure, doing what Leclerc did in his device, right? Making faster that drop in pressure. So it probably is a good idea. Okay. Hi, WP for Truth, Ajax Adamus. Hi, Jared Ruse. Yay, we burn stuff. I like your handle there. Hi, Daniel Foster. Hi, Thumper Hunts. Hi, J Decker. D2105K. So, I'm going to go and find the image I was going to find and let you ruminate on that. Hi, Starfish Troopers. Oh, that's a great handle as well. Hi, Lewis Noero. Okay, it's great to have such a good quorum here. Hi, Creating Awareness. Okay, so this is going to be a little pause. I wanted to start this one early because I wanted to get my let's call it bitching out of the way. But this is an extremely serious time we are living in. Hi, Hink Yuan. This is an extremely serious time, and we cannot let them take out the pipelines coming into southern Europe. They cannot. They stopped the Qatari pipeline through Syria, so that never got off the board. They've taken out the Nord Stream pipeline. This is literally killing a continent. Okay? It is killing a continent. I will give the parable of the Indian family again, before I go look for this image. There was a famine up in northern India many years ago, and one of the families was very prudent during all the years of fat, and they looked after their. They saved some grain and some pulses and stuff and so forth. And when the famine came and it really hit hard, the villagers were dying of hunger. And what they found a little bit suspicious was this family were all looking pretty healthy. And so they suspected that they had been prudent and, saved for a rainy day. And they went in, they killed the whole family, and then they ate their food. So do not think because you're sitting pretty that this won't come to bite you. And you do not understand, I think, how quick this can change. It can really, really change fast. It can really change fast. And it's literally psychopathic what they are doing right now. Psychopathic. We have to remove any moral argument for them in their twisted minds to go through with this. By that, I mean we have to make sure that CO2 is not an issue. Methane is not an issue. You are producing energy, and the energy is extremely abundant and doesn't damage any part of the environment, and we can support trillions of happy humans on this planet without denuding the environment for other creatures. It is a spiritual war of gargantuan proportions. Okay, I'm going to see what I can find. I've got it somewhere, I think. So this might be a fairly chunky delay, but get your friends to come in because this is taking a lot of guts to do what I'm going to do today. But I have to do it. I've had to do it for a long time, and now that time has come. And I promise, no equations. Okay. If you're watching this on replay, you need to skip to when you see something else other than my mugshot on the screen. So yeah, I cannot share that Coptic Christian image in any PDFs that I share because the license does not allow me to do that. I can put it in our presentations and on our YouTube, the MFMPs, but I cannot share it outside of those areas. I'm sorry about that. But you will be able to refer to it in the YouTube. The organisation hasn't got enough money to fight Getty Images. It would be great if someone, I think it's either in the Coptic Museum in Cairo, or it may be, I think it might even be in a New York museum. If it is, it would be absolutely wonderful. It would be wonderful if someone could take a picture of it, high resolution, and then we can freely distribute it. As I will. And as I do with the other images that I've gathered over a period of time. Aha! I found the image I wanted. Good, excellent. That didn't take too long, did it? Right, it was there all along. Right, now I need to cut that out. So sometimes when you are coming up with mental images, you scribble things down on a piece of paper. I'm going to share that with you in a second. And then I will talk you through what happened. It might explain something that looked a little bit bonkers that I did a couple of weeks ago. The main image set that I'm going to be using today isn't using all of the highest resolution images I have, so I will work it up at a different time to be superior quality. But it's good enough to get across the concept today. Now, if only I could find... All right. So I made this on the 17th of January, nearly a month ago, at 2 minutes past 5. So I wanted to expand upon the kind of drawing that I had done to first explain the ultra experiments here. So as you are aware, I believe the minimum fractal structure can be 2 at every point. I would like to credit the Chilbolton 2000 crop circle for that, and the 2001 crop circle, where they said, beware of the deceivers, there is still time. That was the message that was associated with one of those crop circles. And so in the pit here, you have similarly 2 torus, but at 90 degrees. And those will similarly have 2 torus at 90 degrees to that, and it's fractal all the way down. The minimum fractal is 1 on one side, 1 on the other. Okay, and this produces your spiraling. I'll give you other examples, but this goes from the ultra experiment and substructures all the way up to galaxies like the spiral galaxy, which I've talked about before. But in the top stage here, you get the resultant toroidal moment from this tori and this tori, which I've crossed through, and then this gives us our resultant fractal toroidal moment going around here, in which our dark matter flows. Okay, and this produces a flux going through the center. And if you remember, we saw these specific little triangles eaten out of the central zone of this area here. Now you will understand, hopefully by the end of this presentation, the region in this central zone, the distance from here to here, that one would expect the maximum of this effect to occur. But what I wanted to do is kind of like think on that a little bit more. And by the way, it's kind of like where you have a metal, it's electrophilic, and this leads to the production of easy water, which means you get more negative ions next to the metal, and that means you've got more positive ions on the outside. And with the depressurization here, because of the rare refraction pulses going on in the ultrasound and so forth, you end up with these vortices forming, which are charged particles spinning around, and that basically creates your toroidal moment, initiation. So that happens. And also, there is this coherent ground state, and someone, seems to be amazed that, this comment that was often said by Paul Pantone about hot water freezing quicker than cold water. And I thought, well, that's probably because when it got hot, 2 points, the oxygen and nitrogen have dissolved out of it. And secondly, the other point is the coherent ground states have been decohered. So it finds it easier to go into the frozen state. But, I might be wrong about that. I'm wrong about a lot of things. So I expanded on this diagram here. And essentially what I'm doing is when you are looking at an ultra experiment, you see these yin-yangs, but they're not in a perfect grid array. And if you look at the ultrasonic chamber, it's elliptical in shape, but actually kind of like a rectangle elliptical. So you can imagine that if there's sounds going around and the standing waves being set up between the different distances, in some places the standing waves are crossways, in some ways they are diagonal, some are lengthways, and some are top to bottom. And so this would account for the field interference, or rather, should I say, the rarefraction pulse interference of the different waves, and this would account for the organization of, in my view, the yin-yang structures. So I will do this in much better detail. I haven't put the peaks and the troughs. This is at the point of initiation of a series of standing waves. So I've done a generalized image here where you've got an electromagnetic wave represented as curves for places where they're used, and I've got these wide lines and compressed lines to represent rarefraction pulses. I have OM as ordinary matter, DM as dark matter, TM as toroidal moments, and XYZ as orthogonal wave propagation. So you have this wave interference that leads to these various arrangements of yin-yang structures. Okay, and so the point is I was looking at this, which is, kind of the vortex structure that you see, and we're going to see a lot of those. We have in the past, but I think it's going to become very clear what that's all about. And what this would do is that the vortex here would burrow into here, leaving a cone with a pit in it, and this would burrow into here, and it would leave a pit with a cone in it, and that gives you the structure that I just showed you here. The cone with a pit in it, and the pit with a cone in it. And in my view, the cone end of a Geet rod would ideally be shaped like this, and the pit end would be ideally shaped like this. And it's funny because I was speaking to one of a very experienced maker, and he says there's something special. It's not just a pit which you have to put in for optimum. I said, before you say anything, let me tell you what I think it's going to be. And I described this, and he goes, yes. So there we go. I think a blunt one at the front should be fine, because the front is less important than the back in terms of the vortex structure that you need. Okay, so I was looking at this, and on the 17th of January, and I was thinking, oh my God, these look exactly like something else. And I'm going to go and look for what I made then. I need to find images that I made on that day. Oh dear. Okay. Well, I've already made the graphic for this, but it was meant to be for another presentation. But owing to things that happened in January, I was unable to do it. So I'm having to play comeback here. So. You're not far off, Corky. You're going to see something quite special, I think. Hi, Cosmic Dave. The owl has the wrong proportions, though, in my view. Okay. All right. I haven't got the composite image, but this'll do for now. This is just such a terrible presentation. Okay. It won't be later. So, having seen this here, as I drew it, as we know and love, I thought, oh my God, look at this. This is the same thing. It is exactly the same thing. Of course, I've made that argument before. Okay. And I said to myself, what you're looking at there is an ionic column. An ionic column. That is the capital of an ionic column. Okay. And then I thought to myself, hold on a minute, hold on a minute, hold on a minute, hold on a minute. And I need to go to, like I say, I have this all in a presentation, but I can't even find it. I don't even know where I put it. So I'm going to have to show you this way. It's fine. Okay. Something better than nothing. This. When I'm looking at that, you can't see it yet because I haven't put it on the screen. I am thinking of this. And this is the Mobius strip of Shakparanov. And what he has done is he has put this onto one of the early NVIDIA Tesla processors. And he's done the pulse and simulated the pulse charge moving around the Mobius strip. And the shock wave, and what you're seeing here is reflections off the side of the metal that's on the insulator. But this is the collision of the shock fronts. And what do you see? Well, you see these structures. You see these kind of structures. It is a ionic column top. And here is a blow up of that. And that got me thinking, hold on a minute. Ken Shoulders said that every place you get charge separation, you will get the formation of exotic vacuum objects. And here we've got dense black with a little bit of white on the outside feeding in here. And over here we've got these dense white structures. Have we got like a positive vortex here and a negative vortex here? Is that what you're seeing? Probably. Maybe. Maybe that's what we're seeing. So I thought, why don't we look for the etymology of ionic? What is the etymology of ionic? And this was quite shocking to me. Now, it was because I studied Greek architecture and ceramics that I knew kind of something what I was talking about here. But here is online etymology dictionary, and here it says pertaining to Ionia or the Ionians. 1570s of music, 1580s of architecture, from Latin Ionicus, from Greek Ionikos. See Ionian. In prosody, a foot of too long, blah, 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 blah. The Ionic school of philosophers, Thales and Anaximander. The Ionic school of philosophers, Thales and Anaximander, studied the material world in ways that somewhat anticipated observational science. Thales and Anaximander studied the material world in ways that somewhat anticipated observational science. It also once was the name of an important school of Greek painting, but all of it, save the name, is lost. So, the important thing here is the Ionic school of philosophers, Thales and Anaximander. They basically started observational science. And then you read a little bit further down, and I'm thinking, hold on a minute. Hold on, what's he saying here? Ion, 1834, introduced by English physicist and chemist Michael Faraday, suggested by the Reverend William Well, English polymath, coined from Greek ion, new to present participle of ioni, go, and from pi, root, blah, blah. So called because ions move towards the electrode of opposite charge. Literally, these guys came up with ionic, and they gave birth to the ionic column. It looks like this. This looks like it, and this is what it does, right? You couldn't make this up. So if we go here, this is an experiment which you can do. And if you take a 9-volt battery here, this is on exploratium.edu, and you get like a yin-yang going on in a subject fluid. Here is over a magnet. And if you put it over a magnet, you get a vortex structure with these two structures in a Petri dish. So could it be that it was cooled ions and ionic process by Michael Faraday because the English polymath saw these kind of rotating structures in electrolyzed water? This is like red cabbage juice. In fact, I actually made the red cabbage juice. I had all the batteries, I could blah, 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 and I was going to do a whole experiment on that in January to show you this, but it's already done here, so I don't really need to do that. I just need to get this out the door because it's too important now. Okay, so here we have this thing, and it's a very simple experiment you can do. Okay, so I thought let's read about Anaximander. So Anaximander, he was 610 to 546 BC, and he was a pre-Socratic Greek philosopher who lived in Miletus, a city of Ionia in modern-day Turkey. He belonged to the Milesian school, and he learned the teachings of his master, Thales. He succeeded Thales and became the second master of that school, where he counted this guy and Pythagoras amongst his pupils. So he taught Pythagoras, right? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so basically, this guy here, Anaximander, invented the scientific method. He invented the scientific method. And he did that by looking at physical reality, seeing what it did, and saying, there must be some science behind this. There must be some science behind things that happen that you can physically witness and repeatedly do. And this makes perfect sense why a polymath would tell Faraday to call this ionic. Because, well, basically, it looks like that when you do it, right? All kind of making sense. Now, what is Thales famous for? Let me go and get what Thales is famous for. So we're going to look at Thales. Where's Thales? I'm probably saying this wrong, but this is the dude here. This is the dude. Thales. Thales of Miletus was a Greek mathematician, astronomer, so on, blah, blah, blah. And he otherwise historically recognized as the first individual known to have entertained and engaged in scientific philosophy. Scientific philosophy. This is the dude, right? The last time I saw a sculpture of him was in a sculpture garden made out of marble in Vietnam. Made by people who are supported by the states because they are multiple generations of genetically harmed from Agent Orange. And yeah, so that is Thales, and he is referred to as the father of science. He is often referred to as the father of science. And his protege, Anaximander, developed observational science and the scientific method and taught Pythagoras. But what are they responsible for? Well, does anyone know what this is? Does anyone know what this is? Anyone know what this is? This, my friends, is, if it's going to let me see it, it's also here. It's the point within a circle. You have no idea. No. This is the Freemason symbol. And it's often represented here. This is the Masonic symbol of the point in a circle. In some versions of this symbol, the volume of sacred law, VSL, is pictured above the circle. So what they'll do is depending on which state you have your lodge, you will have a Bible here in the West. You might have a Quran in the Middle East. You might have, I don't know, the Bhagavad Gita or whatever, Gita rather, in India, and so on. Right, so this is a Masonic symbol. And if you follow it down, you end up finding out about Thales' theorem. And this is how you get a right angle. So if you want to know why the Masons have a compass and a right angle, is that if you take a point and you draw a circle around that point with your compass, and then you draw a straight line through the center, okay? Any straight line, and then you draw any point on the circle and draw a line from point A to C and from B to C, this gives you a right angle. So with a compass, you can get a right angle. And with those two things, you can do your masonry. Okay? And the proof is here. And this is another proof for it. But, if we take this to its logical extension, this is the theory of Thales. This is what Thales is famous for. Okay? So the dude we're talking about over here, not Anaximander, but Thales here, this guy, with a wonderful sculpture of him. This guy, he is the father of modern science, right? They gave birth to the Ionic. And here we go. This is Thales' theorem, how you can work this out. But if you extend this down, you get this, and I will give the links to this. But this is where it starts to get really interesting. This is where it really starts to get interesting. So, if you move one circle half the distance over the other one, so the center points of the radius is the center point of the other one, you end up with the Vesica Pisces, the symbol of Christ, okay, with the center point in the middle. Okay? And with that, I'm going to put some hold music and I'm going to visit the little boy's room before we get to the main event. So go and look up Thales of Miletus and his protege, Anaximander, and go up and look up Ionic etymology. And I'm going to put one thing up on the screen for you for your viewing pleasure. And it's a public domain image. This was all going to be in a presentation. But this is on Gare du Nord in France, and it's an ionic column head on the Gare du Nord here. And I'm going to focus in on this. And there we go. I want you to write down what you can see in the top of this ionic column capital. I mean, it is stylized. It's late generation. But don't just look at the vortex structure. Look at the things surrounding it and try and think what they are. There is so much of this science codified into this ionic column. It's almost hilarious. What do you see? What do you see? So there's 3 pillars that are used in Masonic temples, and this, I believe, is the most important one. Yeah, sad that Wallace has died. Wallace Thornhill passed away. So condolences to him. He's another great observational scientist. Will he be credited like Thales and Anaximander? I don't know. So, yes, people are seeing the flower of life up here. It's the 6 rows, okay? And that is very, very important, okay? Now, you've got the vortex structure here. You've got the things being pulled into the vortex. You have the little spiral here and the big spiral. We've seen these in our experiments en masse. You get 2 flower of life coming out of here because the fractal toroidal structure at its n-1 level will output coherent matter traveling waves as pairs that come through the center of the vortex, okay? And this is where your new matter is born, okay? And so we see this coming out of the ultra experiments. Now, the other thing which is extremely accurate, it's scarily accurate, is that you have a vortex going one way and it has one type of flourish, and then you have a vortex going the other way and it has another type of flourish, okay, above. Now, you'll note that the center points here are above the center points here, and it goes down, up, and this is exactly how it works. So when we look at our structure here, although this is a stylized image, again, you've got one above and one below, and the center line is here. So this is how it works in reality. You have it above and below. So it's wonderfully encoded in here. For me, the flower of life coming out of the center, okay, is just a beautiful thing. with it showing that. So it's a bloom, but it is a flower, and it is a stylization of the flower of life, a core of thing with the nectar, coming in the center of the flower. The other interesting thing is in the point of maximum compression in each of the vortex things, and bearing in mind there will be a flux loop between here, okay? You have what, to me, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is, you have a seed pod of some kind, whether it's a small maize kernel or whether it's a small pine cone, it doesn't really matter. But this is compression forces going in here, and so this is information. Seed is information. It's information for, storage. It's storage. And so storing energy in matter is what is going on in here. Reprocessing matter is the overall structure, and out of it comes a double helix, which I have shown you coming from a Mars vibrator plate, and I have shown you coming out of many Henke and David Boutillier experiments in the coherent matter traveling waves, and I've shown you also in another system which I will talk about today, which was the Amasa gas on the tungsten. And the special thing, I mentioned it a couple of times before, but we're going to focus in on that and its geometrical relationship. Okay. Okay, so that's that. So we'll come down here. Now, I'm going to look at a couple of other ones as well, because I think that's going to be a good thing to do. So we're going to go there. And we're going to go. So this would all have been in a presentation that I would have liked to have done in January, but I got overtaken by other events, and I don't really want to go into them. So this one is on a 5th century BC column. Again, it's a Wikipedia image, so you can look at it to your heart's pleasure. Okay, so it has a torus around here, and it also has these vortexes going around. It doesn't have the alternate vortices on here, and it has the sort of it's the bit below. The actual column itself is something, in my view, and credit to these ancient philosophers for seeing this. Full credit. So let me see if I can actually find the other image that I wanted to share on this. Do I have it? I don't know whether I do. Maybe not. Let me see if I can go back to ionic column, maybe. So I wanted someone to find these things. It's not like I haven't put the imagery out there. But here we are. And you'll see why it plays into the safety aspects of what's going on, and why I talked about what I talked about at the beginning of this presentation this evening. Okay. I'm going to just look for ionic column. There we go. Yeah, so here's another example. This is 410 years before Christ. Again, you have a vortex up. Let me go into a new window for that. It's going to let me do that. Yeah. So we have a vortex up, and we have a vortex down. So the central line on these here, it's above this. This is very, very accurate for what occurs in a sound ultra experiment. Okay, and note that each one is different. This is a flower, and this is kind of like, is it a flower maybe? Or is it something different? Don't know. So what we have done is we've connected explicitly the birth of the scientific method, observational science, with the key structure, the capital ionic column that gave birth to the word ion and ionic, and it is charge separation, i.e. ions, that lead to the formation of charge clusters. In fact, it's so beautiful. It beggars belief. Now, I like this one here because let me just check where this is from. This is in Austria, and they like to call this a festoon, these things. But you have something coming out here and meeting in the center, and something coming out here, but they are coming from the core of this structure. And as we should probably recognize by now, out of the core of these structures, you have a flux, and one is pushing out and one is sucking in type thing. Okay. But again, it's a stylized ionic structure. And you can go and look at that and you'll find, like, I mean, it's just a thing of beauty, really. And it comes from the power of just looking at what nature did. So long before Schauberger, these philosophers and the people that gave birth to the scientific method and observational science were doing this, and they should be given proper credit. Now, I like this one here because it's a Byzantine ionic column from Albania, and this is very important because you have the vortex here and you have the vortex here. In fact, this is kind of like somewhere between ionic. It's got the ionic bit, and it's got the other one of the other types sort of on top, and they've got a cross here. But the cross is above this central zone, and this is important. Okay, you will see this in my work, which is the core part of this presentation here. So this looks like it is divided into 3, but it isn't. What it's divided into is 4. But what they've done is they've got rid of one of the divisions and they've centered this central bit here. And that is very, very important. That is very important. And they put the cross above that. It's very, very, very hard-coded in stone science. Okay. So why am I going on about these spirals so much? Well, this is why. Oh, you gotta love it when a plan comes together. Even some people thought I managed to convince me that I was bonkers from paying attention to these things for so long. Right. I'm going to go into more precise detail at another time, but just for those that are coming into this new, this is the basic fractal structure that I shared as being critical at the my 2018 October the 6th presentation to the Russian community here. And this is the 2000 Chilbolton crop circle. And you have the Masonic ring and a spot in the center. And that is the central toroidal, fractal toroidal moment. And what you can't work out here really is that these are, you know, you rotate these and they're rotated 90 degrees on each fractal thing. And it's impression. It's an impression of what it should be. And the following year, they put this down here, which was their supposed communication method. And I've talked about how the fractal toroidal moment feeds into the superfluid supercondensate of relic neutrinos, and maybe even the flux threads and enables you to communicate over distances. And when I'm talking about the center two toroids, the flux coming out, I'm talking about this and this and this. Sorry, you have these helix coming out of the center of a cavitation spot. And here you have the structure in a bubble structure, and you have the same structure here in a lion experiment. Okay, so that is what I'm talking about, is in the center of a vortex, and you have the same thing going on in a galaxy here. And I'm going to give other examples in another presentation coming up. Okay, has exactly the same structure, and there's no reason why it shouldn't do. Okay, and that comes from this work here. It's not our work, but that wasn't what I was going to show you, so I'm going to go back here. And I need to give credit to Solin first, before I go into my big PSD. Okay, so give me a second, and then we'll start to understand why there are risks with this. I hope so, anyway. So, from the monopole clutch presentation, I'm going to pull up where is it? This one, and we're going to look at this later, but this is a soliton interaction. Down here I've got this 1950s image where they have an aerofoil and they have dust particles on water, and they move the aerofoil, and it creates it creates this structure, which is essentially the Vesica Pisces here, and this is exactly what happens. So the particles you can see here form these structures, and this is a standard vortex. The material gets trapped in the center, these dust particles. You have this angle here, and you have another type of structure here. And it depends, because if these move further apart, these change angles. So this is the triangle I talked about, oh my God, so many moons ago in this. So these are the mirrored structures here, and they are pointing to something. And when they are right next to each other, they're close. The angles point in, but as they move further apart, they kind of go like this. They start like that. Sorry, am I doing that one? This camera. No, this camera is wider. So they start like pointing there with the black hole or the sphere in the middle, depending on whether a yin or yang. And then as they get further apart, they move, and the triangles like kind of move apart like that, and they're pointing somewhere. And I sort of joked about that at the time. Where are they pointing? Oh, where are they pointing? many moons ago. And so the basic structure here is these. Like this one down here on the bottom right, which is the one where they're pointing together. But from Solin's work here, this is from his patent. In fact, this is a drawing in his 1992 patent for his coherent nuclear reactor. He says these signatures, which are these two circles overlaying, they are the signature. In fact, all of these are signatures of these nuclear processes, and we've replicated these. Shoulders replicated them, and so on. And here are the first ones, and this is where we're going to start looking at the PSD. Okay. Right. This is going to be shocking for most of you. What's going to happen now? I've kind of said it like for years, but I'm going to go through the principal logic with empirical evidence from a wide range of experiments, that many of which you can replicate and which we've replicated internally and other people have replicated since. And just while I'm thinking about it, at ICCF 22 and ICCF 23, I think he almost at 24, Bin Juan Huang of Taipei University, this is an aside, he showed that you got, when you passed water through a pipe that was inside another pipe with the heating pipe going on the outside, you ended up by getting excess heat. Well, effectively, it's the same kind of process going on. And he observed the production of silicon on pits when he did a cavitation experiment on the copper, and he also saw it in his reactor. It got shiny and stuff. So silicon is confirmed being produced in these kind of systems. So you can get rid of carbon and oxygen and fuse them together to end up with silicon. So there's so many examples, it's almost boring to list, but we're going to show you this PSD now, and we're going to start by basically looking at these two images. So I won't be looking at the inside of this quartz, but what happened was this was either two, I think it was two lions. This was line 1, this might have been line 2, and in this case the metal wire here, the Cantal wire, was centered on the center point here, and it had a incrustation that contained calcium where there was no other calcium anywhere else in the center of this vortex, and there was no mark on the underside. So that implied that the loop structure came from this one, which is the slightly smaller one, and down onto the top one here. And so that is the vortex loop that I am referring to here. You have these beams coming out, and one is kind of like a north structure and one is a south, but it's a pseudo monopole, and then these can link together, and you will see that in the Coptic Christian thing that we looked at earlier. It's all there, vortex and anti-vortex, and the linking over the top, and they have the point of center. In fact, I'm going to go to that just as an aside, because it doesn't really let's go back to the Ode Mourning, not Mourning. Okay, so here you have the vortex column here. In fact, I'm going to get rid of the overlay images here. I'm going to make a clone of that and get rid of the overlay images, or text rather. Okay. So you cannot use this image. I can use it because I paid $180 quid for it, but you can't. So, but you can see it here, right? So we have a vortex and an anti-vortex, the spiraling going one way, spiraling going the other way. In the center, you have a Maltese cross, okay? This is effectively a rotated point of focus. And then over the top, you have this half circle with the vortex going one way and the other vortex going the other way and meeting in the center, okay? So let me just show you that in context of what I just showed you, which is this one. No, it's not. It's this one from my monocole clutch presentation. So these are your two columns with vortex going one way and vortex going the other way, and then they can join in the center, okay? They can go off on their own or they can join in the center. But you kind of have, on each level, you have the same kind of thing going on. So like this is just the top level fractal Tor, but if you only had one structure here, you would have the same thing going on here, a torus and an anti-torus. Okay, all right. Hopefully that's come through, and you can see the structures lined up here. So 1950s video, and lined up to 2017 experiments of Lion. Thank you, Lion. Okay, so we're going to go and do the main event now. Alpha Omega. All right, so this is going to be interesting. This is not mine to own. This is everyone's birthright. We have used this technology on Earth before the last ice age. The evidence is in the archaeological record for that to be a true statement. Okay, so what I have done here is I've combined the two aspects. I've got the Visa Pisces here that we showed on that website. Is a construction and an extension from the Masonic circle and the spot. And we have the central pot spot here. And if I turn that on and off, there you can see the partially affected area on the outside and the much more affected area on the inside. So I'm going to start off with surface effects at this point. And the next surface one that I want to look at is the lion cauliflower. And there it is. So you have the central point here. And you can actually see, one thing I have to say is some of these images are taken with different lenses. They have different distortion on them, and they're not always square on. So we have to do the best we can by, representing what's going on. But the most burrowed bit is in the center, and the least burrowed bit is on the outside. You can see how this is in focus here, this is in focus here, but it goes out of focus rapidly. And this is through the volume of the quartz, okay? So most of the action is occurring in these two central areas. Okay, so I'll take the yin-yang off there. Now, the interesting thing between this was in line with the B field on the solenoid of the reactor, and this one was 90 degrees to it. And this one was on the outside, in my view, pulling stuff in, and this one is on the inside, pushing stuff out. And so this would imply one overall toroidal moment was a maker and the other one was a breaker, and their relationship to the magnetic field. Okay. Oh dear, Gordon's joke for the day, Alpha and Omega, it's all Greek to me. It won't be Greek soon. The beginning and the end. Okay, so the next one we have is a Mars gas and the 10 yen coin. No, sorry, this is a Mars gas. A Mars vibrator. So this is just ultrasonic vibration on a steel plate. And you can really see the point in the circle on these. It's very, very, very clear. So you have the point in the circle and the point in the circle. And then you have this zone which is overlapping, and then you have this kind of fuzzy affected zone out, and then you have this kind of heart shape. It always kind of makes this heart shape. You're going to see that a lot. I've shared that a lot. Okay. So these are all surface effects. So you got, where are we? Blah, blah, blah. Lion on the surface. This is burrowing through the surface, but this is partially volumetric. It's partially volumetric. This is definitely on the surface. On the outside, it's not damaged on the inside of this quartz. This is on the surface of a steel vibrator plate. Okay, so I'm going to bring back in our thing here. I didn't want that one in there. Do I want the center one? No, don't want the center one yet. Okay. Then we have the ultra yin yang. Okay, so this one is like I was showing you in the other presentation. From the side, it is let's show you here. It is, if I can get it, no, not there. Oh, you know the one that I was just showing you, and that I've got in the background here, actually. No, I haven't. Oh, well, you know the one. This is from the top. Okay. Now, that will actually give us some more construction lines, which we're going to put in a minute. This here is an Evo that struck on the side of the outside of the quartz sheath that covers the anode in Henk Uren's Vega experiment. And interestingly, you have the double vortex coming through here, through the core, and this is, you've got something that's damaged slightly in this central area here, and it's off at an angle. Now, why is this? Well, what you're not seeing here is the actual central zones, and it's going to be important to put those on. But first, I'm going to show you the same kind of offset here, and this is the Om. These are both Oms in the sort of Sanskrit writing, but you've got the fact that toroidal moment is pinching this material over here, and that's going to become important when we look at the Ohmasa gas versus the tungsten. Okay, so got so many here, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the yin yang here, okay, and I'm going to add in the important construction elements for this, and if I can get it. Is it this one? Okay, so they are the central zones, okay, but that doesn't quite describe the bubble area, okay, because the bubble actually lives between here and here, okay. So the actual bubble, if I can do it, which one is it? Is this one. Now remember what I said about that column that had the cross above it and the two central spots and the other one, and I said this is 3. So this inner one here is half the radius of this, okay? This one is half the radius of this, but this isn't, okay? This is the center point here, and then divided in 4 to the center point here, radius, and then 4 across there, but you don't have 4, you have only 1 in the center here. So this is a still calm place. This is the Christ center. This is the Christ center, okay? And so let's see if I can go back to that image of the ionic column. Did I keep it? What did I do with it? Did I keep it? I don't know whether I kept it. Window. Did I keep it? Oh, I'm just going to find something else. Christ, where's the Christ? Ionic column. Back on Wikipedia, down here to the Byzantine. So this is our Christ center here. These are the things on the either side, and it's divided into 4, but you get rid of 1 and you move this bit into the center. Okay, so that is what I'm saying is going on here. That is your Christ center. Okay, now you're probably wondering, what am I doing talking about 4 here? Well, before we go forward, I'm going to drop in the yin yang. There is the yin yang. It's an absolutely perfect match. So if I change the opacity on this, you can see that the division of 4 across here gives the black spot absolute exactly and the white spot absolute exactly, although that I've made this in Photoshop, so I haven't done it in a vector or, you know, CAD picture. So there's a little black line here, but it's pretty much exactly. And then the central spot where you basically have the vortex coming here and the vortex coming here. So you have perfect phase conjugation here. And therefore, this is utter stillness. This is total stillness, but it spreads out from here, okay, in the vortex. So this is, whilst this is a division of 1 of that, so it's half of that, and this is half of that, this is this different ratio here that ends up by giving you 4 across there. Okay, now why is this 4D4D ratio important? Well, because that is the structure of the fractal structure of the fractal toroid, which I've put in here for your viewing pleasure. And for some reason it's all weird coloured. Why is that? It's got linear burn on there. Let's do it. So there's our fractal toroid in there, and all I've done is I've only got the 2 in this case, but I've got the substructure with a full 48 on the fractal. Okay. We won't go into detail here, but that is exactly what that is. So now perhaps you understand why it has to be a D4D structure. Okay, it has to be. There's no other option that nature gives you. Okay, and this is what was observed at the conclusion of the fusion research that was held from 1948 to 1980 by Winston Bostick. Okay, so there we go. So you can see there our fractal toroid. And like I say, only needs to be 2 at this level. It doesn't need to be 48. This is 2. The minimum is 2. It can be more. We've shown all kinds of levels, but it only needs to be 2. Let's find something that works. That kind of works, doesn't it? Okay. All right. Okay, so we don't need that one on for the minute. We'll turn the fractal toroid off. Okay. So we have perfect and utter and total correlation between the ancient yin-yang symbol and what is produced by a 5-year-old with 20 minutes of instruction using a $35 ultrasonic tank and a piece of kitchen foil and water from the tap. Literally anyone can do this if they can press a button and are capable of pouring water. Okay, that's how simple this experiment is. There's literally no excuse. Now, you might ask, why is this to one side and this one to the other side? Well, this is a surface phenomenon, and you've got a little bit of damage underneath the surface here. But what happens is this side it's going in, and this one it's coming out. The other fractals part is, I think it's there and there actually, the motion. But when you look at some of the others, and I would have put this in, but I didn't because I didn't get time. We've got other examples where we have the where is it? Not that one. We have got other examples of these ultra experiments where you see that the material is coming out from one side and it's coming out from one side over here. So this is the same thing, in my view, that's going on here and on here. Okay, so these are all surface ones, but this is kind of like a surface and a volumetric because the surface is able to distort, so you don't get the striking offset that you get here. Okay, this is another ultra experiment, but there's a lot of distortion because it's actually, you've got the full OM going on and this bit down here. Right, now, oh dear. and there, by the way, is those construction lines that we had from that other author's work that I referred to earlier, and I will give the link. Okay, so there's 2 things that concern me. And by the way, this is phi ratio. So if you draw from the center line here to this on the inner part of this line through the center of one of these sides, you end up with the phi. Okay, the 1.614 or whatever it is, the phi ratio. So it is unsurprising to me that phi exists in nature. Okay, when you see how shall we put it? I have this in my bag ever since I got it off the Jurassic Coast. Let me see if I can find it. I was going to put it on this diagram, and I probably will do. This. I'm going to get the right camera. Is it that one? No, this one. Here, like this is, what was it, 100 million, 200 million years old ammonite. And this has the phi ratio, and it also has, interestingly, I think it's 24. Is it 24? I don't know. It's a certain, very, very interesting number of segments around it. So this is a beautiful thing. And according to the guy that thinks about the string theory, or not string theory, of the string atoms, it is nature that pulled these into its own creation process that leads to the fossil being formed into that way. But anyway, I did that in another presentation. So here we go. So this is the center line going down to the outside construction areas. From there, through the center point of one or other of the sides, and the point at which it meets here, that is the phi ratio right there. Okay, so it is unsurprising that this occurs in nature. Okay, so when this is done, it's a mathematical curiosity, but here it's a natural certainty. Okay, on the toroidal vortex nature of what occurs. So there's two things that I'm concerned about. One is what goes on here, and the other thing is something that goes on from the core. Okay, and I'll talk a bit more about that as we move forward. Okay, so that's that. And the thing that I'm going to bring up now is the Sumerian bowls. Okay, so when you look at these Sumerian bowls, and I've overlaid them and I've mirrored one. Okay, you have the swastika right rotation in one side and a swastika left rotation in the other. You have the uncohered particles coming in here and moving round the vortex and moving round the vortex, and the cohered particles coming out of here. Okay, so they are depressed. So they go, They go down in the vortex to the center, and they get thrown out in cohered state. Okay, and the line for that is quite similar, but not exactly to. But it might be, I don't know. But I get a feeling that it would come out at that place, and you'll see what I'm saying in a minute. This line here is kind of like parallel to this. I don't know, but anyway, I've arranged these bowls in the arrangement of the structure that was on the Hutchison sample, the Bulburn structure, where we had these exact set shape structures, where one was a cavity taken out and the other one was damage. Maybe I can find that briefly. Okay. If you give me a second. So this is well before Christ that these lanterns were made. This was from a Northern Iraq museum. It may be as old as 12,000 years old. Okay, so you can see, if I turn off this, you can see the swastikas left and right, as you get in all Hindu temples, who were all over this from ancient times. There we go. All right, so we got a D4D. I'm going to just bear with me. I'm not showing you, am I? Oops. Sorry. I'm sorry about that. I'm talking about these possibly as old as 12,000 years, but certainly well before Christ, bowls from the Sumerian culture in northern Iraq. And I've arranged these in the same arrangement as the structures on the Tenyin. It's not on the Tenyin, on the Bulburn sample 10 MFMP sample from John Hutchison that was made in 1986. And so I can take these off, and you can see the swastika going around one way and the swastika going around the other, and these are the vortical structures, and the particles are coming in decohered. They go down into the vortex and they come out cohered, and they go down into the vortex and come out cohered. Okay, so let me go and see if I can find that for you, the actual particular slide that I am referring to here. Maybe I can quickly. Don't know. Okay, I have found this, which is useful. It illustrates my point. So over here we've got boron, which is a lighter element, and notice it's not coming out of the dead center; it's coming out to one side. So that you know, there's something has made a lighter element, and over here we have silver and other heavier elements, and you can see the bar galaxy structure here with the two vortex structures, and I will show you that actually the ring is here and the ring is here. But I'll do that in another presentation, so you can see what the next subtorus structure down is. Here's another one, and again you can see from the side it comes out. So what happens is the vortex goes down, and then its point of penetration, where it goes round and ends up in the other vortex, in the so-called infinity loop that kind of goes round here. That's why you are seeing what I showed you here. If I put on the construction lines here, and we go down and we turn off this one, and we go down and we turn on This one, you see, it's offset. It's offset. So when you look at what the thing does, where the matter comes through, you can see it's offset. This is not in the whole central zone. It's offset. So the matter is being thrown here, and the heavier elements are here, and the lighter elements are here. So one is this is a breaker, and this is a maker. Or you could argue that it's made it from hydrogen, but I think it's actually breaking there. Okay. All right. But that wasn't exactly what I wanted to show you. What was I wanting to show you? Not that one. That is the spiral coming out. No, not that. Oh, this is in Binjuan Huang's work, which I was talking about earlier. And you can see here, sorry, it's a bit disjointed. In the center here, he's got this production of silicon. So that is what I'm saying is going to be produced in the GEAT reactor. I expect silicon to be produced, okay? And also a higher proportion of carbon, so that should be potentially synthesized, but that will go around and end up as oxygen and silicon anyway, okay, if you keep cycling it. Right, okay, so I'm going to go back to here. I've not found what I wanted to do just then, but there's lots more to share with you to get this message across, and so I'm going to do that instead. Okay, so that's the Sumerian poles. Now, like this one concerns me, this one also concerns me. And it's the Amarza gas versus tungsten. Now, in this case, when I first saw this in Alan Goldwater's lab at 3:08 in the morning on the 3rd of September 2019, and this was in my poster at ICCF 22 in Azizi. I said, Alan, when people understand what this is telling you, it's going to literally melt their brains. Now, I will qualify that a little bit later on. But this is actually ripping matter apart. It is completely ripping matter apart. This is, I think, like strontium. I'm going to go and look at the data in a minute. But this is a field of carbon, okay? And it's a field of carbon that's actually in its own ring, okay? And it comes up and it has this bizarre circle here. And nothing is coincidence. It is not an accident that this is a circle. It also has this structure coming down here, and it's kind of like triangular and slightly offset. So this is offset with stuff on this side, and this is offset with stuff on this side, okay? Now notice what I showed you with the surface. Again, this is a surface one, but it's partially volumetric because it is eating into the surface a little bit. If we go back to the surface one down here, not that one, this one. Again, you've got this thing coming down here, and if I put the tungsten on, where this ball is, and this center line here is approximately where this distortion is going on here. So there is a fractal toroidal moment that's projecting down here, and it has this triangular area here. And where this triangular area here is, you get this sphere of material, and it's bleeding out. Now, I have shared all the data of this. I might not go into it again, but essentially you're getting a lot more elements here formed. And during this experiment, we actually, I had one of the world's experts in ball lightning. I said, look, can you get the vacuum cleaner and put a face mask on there before anyone knew really what those things were in general use, and put that on there. And what I want to do is do something that's never been done before and capture the particles that are coming off and see if we get transmuted particles with alongside tungsten in there with the that are equivalent to the ones on the surface, and we did. And so we got all of the usual suspects, but pretty much calcium in every sample, and many elements in the periodic table that are predicted by our reaction calculator, but that's developed by Philip Power with Parkhomov's reaction tables. But anyway, here I said to Alan, I said, I don't know if I can ever present this in without the going through the implications, and today I will go through the implications. because the evidence is too strong at this point, and people are creating a device which is clearly, absolutely, certainly, because it's producing strange radiation outside of the reactor and other effects that are mentioned, that is what it is doing. So you've got a central point here, you've got a still point of calm here, there's another point over here. This is a sphere of iron, it just happens to be there. And what is interesting is up here, and I have this in another image, you have a strange radiation helix coming out, okay? A strange radiation helix coming out. Now, it's not quite, but this might be parallax, or it might be the camera angle, the fact that this is a cylinder and I'm looking at under the SEM and it's not quite lined up face on, but it's not bad. But if I overlay this structure, you'll see that out of the phi line, it's pretty close to here. And that is pretty close to the line that the Sumerian bowls project for the coherent matter to come out. So I'm holding judgment, but it might be that whilst this is the phi ratio, it doesn't actually go to the center point here. It comes off. The point of maybe degeneracy is slightly outside of this, and then it comes out as the coherent matter wave there, traveling wave. Okay, so I'll turn that off. And so this, for me, here is probably the most worrying image I've seen in my research. And that was, as I said, 8 minutes past 3. And I'd already done a gargantuan amount of scanning at this time. But the implications of what you are seeing here are... well, they easily explain everything that's described by Tom Bearden here. Everything. And the start of this presentation. It's just what you can do. Okay? And we just have to accept that. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to start putting in some other construction lines. Because this and the other one, and I think they tell us a big story. So I think maybe I will... These are volumetric. So I've done surfaces. So I've done surfaces, and I've done partial volumes and volumes. And now I'm going to do two proper volumes here now. So the first one is this. And I'm going to bring in the yin-yang lines here. Okay. And so this is the Amasa gas on 10 yen coin. And again, you see this thing coming down here. What is that thing coming down there? This is one which doesn't have that particularly, but it does have these kind of lines coming out here on the point of the coherent matter coming out. Interestingly, this is on a 10 yen coin, but there's diamonds in the bottom of this pit. It likes to make carbon. I would expect there to be diamond powder or diamond deposits in the GEAT reactors. We saw diamond for the very first time in late 2012, early 2013 on the surface of the Chelani wire. It was that inspired me to suggest using industrial abrasives like nickel and diamond and boron nitride and nickel. And the first person to try that was the Lion experimentalist in 2017, and that led down this journey. So diamond, and he actually used diamond and nickel with deuterium. Okay, so this is partially volumetric because it's able to eat into the material. This is volumetric because it's able to eat into the material. This is the breaker. This is the base of this flux on this top tier of the fractal toroidal is sucking off all of the spin nuclei, leaving the non-spin nuclei behind. On this side, you end up with copper, and this is the zinc. Now, the zinc is not a high ratio in a 10 yen coin, but it's all zinc here. So it's scooped up all kinds of matter into this and dumped it over here if it was a spin nuclei. And when you actually analyze the copper and other elements here, it's copper, oxygen, and then about 3.7 or to 4 point something percent of zinc, and that is the ratio of spin nuclei that is in zinc in brass. And so because one of the isotopes of zinc is spin, so we know that it's spin matter that's being captured and pulled across to here in the flux loop. Okay, so there we go. And so that's why you're seeing this one to be grey and this one to be this coppery color. Okay, but it still has this line down here. So we've got another couple of volumetrics here. This one is from Alien Scientist. Okay, and again, you see this line coming down here. So there's this line coming down. I'm going to actually turn that on to a partial exposure. You can see the line comes down to here, and it kind of really completely breaks up here. There's a very decent amount of sort of regularization down here, and the matter is coming, it's being sucked in from here. And I've described this before. This is a depressurization zone, and this is a depressurization zone, and this is increasing pressure into the vortex, increasing pressure into the vortex. And that is why I am saying that in the core of the vortexes, you get storage of information, and it's represented in that ionic column capital on Gare du Nord station in Paris as a seed pod of some kind, probably a kernel of maize or a kernel of could be a pine cone. What you get coming up the center, depending on the type or left or right, total fractal toroidal moment is maybe a heavier or lighter element in the flower of life. And the flower of life would you would argue normally it would be the elements of life mostly. Okay. You get the heavy elements made in here, and you get the light elements made there, unless it's an overall cluster, and then it does different things. The most magnetic probably would line up in here. Okay, so here is the first time I saw something similar to this, and that was in 2017 in Suhas Ralkar's lab in Mumbai, and this is what we saw. We saw the vortex here, and this is going around like this, it's going around like this, and it's moving in this direction, okay? Because it's like an aerofoil. It's moving things quickly through there, of a large volume, quickly through there. This is a depressurization zone. Now, why do I know that? This is a depressurization zone. Why do I know that? Well, because this is an ultrasonic tank that's been sonicated for a long time. There are cavitation bubbles in there that have adiabatically compressed so that you cannot see them. How you are seeing this is because I shined a bright LED light from the side. And where there is low pressure zones, the bubbles then form and they reflect the light. So around these things that are condensing matter into a core, there is a zone all the way around it of depressurizing, I don't know, let's say the structure of the physical vacuum. But in this case, we are seeing it in air, with a Lord Kelvin type smoke ring done by Alien Scientist. In this case, we are seeing it in a much less compressible system called water, and we are seeing it represented. But what do we see down here? We see some means of focusing a depressurization down here, and that, in context with this image, scared the living daylights out of me. It scared the living daylights out of me. This is categorical proof that a hydrodynamic system can have a projection somehow that depressurizes a space in a focal zone. Okay, and in this case, this is depressurizing it down here as well, but in this case, it ends up having a spherical local zone that is so depressurized. And I described this to Alan back in 2019. I said, I believe that the atoms are literally being ripped apart. They are literally being ripped apart. The flux of the vacuum pressure on there it's just completely depressurized, and the matter is falling apart, and it's becoming hydrogen, probably most likely, and it's becoming carbon. Okay, so that's why you get this carbon film, and it's in this ring. Okay. Okay. All right. It's going to get weirder and weirder now. Right. So I need to explain why this is here and why this is down here. And I don't know if it's clear to you, but there is a ring around here. There is a ring around here. And again, there's a little bit of parallax off and stuff. But so I'm gonna bring in the other construction lines here. So I have our D4D, which you can see better if I change the target here. It's there. So we got our D4, and we got our Christ zone in the center here. Okay, and I literally mean that. This is the still calm place where there's no movement at all. No movement at all. This is your perfect, centering of your consciousness. This is literally the how shall we put this? You've meditated to the max. Okay, so I have this beam construction area here, and rather than overlay at 50% of the distance, I have the full, exactly the same circle arranged with the edge at the center point of the still calm. Okay, and this gives our cross right in the center. This gives our cross right in the center. Okay. Then I have 3 of these arranged down here. Okay. And, I could draw another one of these circles here, and this would be in the dead center of that zone. Okay. So you start to see the depressurization area and this overall structure here. Okay. And on this one too, if I get rid of that. Okay. All right. Now, I kind of need... So remember, our yin-yang is up here. Okay. Our phi ratio is from this central point here up to here. Okay. And this is our fractal toroid in that position. Okay. Now, when you draw these things, okay, and then you pull in, if you followed me this far, if you pull in your Coptic arc, you have this. Okay. And what you are seeing here, and I'm missing one of the central circle here, which is not there. Where is it? I turned it off. How have I turned it off? Okay, there's our central circle. Okay, so our central circle here has the flower. Okay. When you draw, and I know it might be a little bit messy here, so I'm going to get rid of the background here, this one, so it's not confusing, and I'm going to get the the Coptic thing here, and I'm going to just fade that out. No, it's okay. Anyway, it's fine. All right. So you have the half Maltese cross here, perfectly aligning pretty much with that. This is centered. This cone here is on the edge of here and the edge of here, okay? And it goes up and focuses into the center point here. This central point is the point of calm in our yin-yang, okay? And it is the center of the torus, the halo. I mean the halo. I don't mean anything else. I mean the halo. It's specifically what I'm meaning of our fractal toroid. Okay, all right. Okay, so this is the Christ center. Okay, now what you have here. Ready for it? Drum roll. Love this. Oh dear, I hate it and love it. Okay, all right. Is we have the Sothic triangle. It's if you construct from the center point, the Christ center, out to the bottom of this radius here, you get exactly the Sothic triangle, which is in the exact ratio in the Coptic art. In the Coptic art. And I can share this because I paid £180 for it, right? But I don't have to pay for this one because I went to Egypt. Thank you to those that helped with that. And I took a picture. And there we have it. Again, the Sothic triangle. Okay? and it goes down and meets the bottom here. Okay, right. So we're nearly there. We also have the ank. So the exact length of this and the exact length of this to the point of the center and to this. And so this is the ordinary matter coming in, and this is the field pulling in the dark matter. The ordinary matter and the dark matter. Okay? All right. That's the Sothic triangle. Now, the Coptic Christians, whatever religion that the Egyptians had, they led to the Coptic Christian faith, and so it's unsurprising that they would want to have kept this here. Now note the level of precision in this artwork. The center point here going through the center on this side, I mean, given the fact that this is not aligned correctly, it's kind of like that's in alignment with the center of that. This is in the center of here. This curve matches the curve here for this kind of Maltese cross structure. This curve here matches this curve. All of the construction curves. It is what it is. But, Jesus said, or rather the Bible says that we are made in the image of God. And God is not a person. It's a force, it's a will, it's an intention, it's an ontological creation process. Okay? It is everything. It is absolutely everything. And therefore, if we are going to find God in us, as I've said before, with certain structures that this technology creates, it's the shape of the nose, it's the shape of the eyes, it's the shape of the ears, it's the shape of many things on our body. But what we are seeing here, that, in my view, is what is creating this. Is what is creating this. It's this Sothic ratio angles here are what is creating this. Is what is creating these forces at play. Is what is causing this to occur in this way, within this circular zone. If I turn all of that off up there, there's a circular zone here, and on one side it has this carbon material here, and on the other side it has a bit of damage up here. Now note, when I put the construction lines back on, this curve here matches the curve of this structure here, this mystery curve structure, which I said had to have been deliberate. It had to have been deliberate. It can't be chance that this is here. It cannot be chance. And sure enough, we see that when you put those lines on, it lines up precisely. Okay? It's not chance. None of this is chance. And I'll show you how much it's not chance. It's not chance because there's a face. From the center of the eye down the Sothic triangle, you end up with just the inside of the nostrils. This is where the material gets sucked up. Look, it's where the material gets sucked up. And in this Vesica Pisces, the fish of Christ, it's exactly there. It's exactly there where the lips are. Here's another face. And here's another face. I'll take off a couple of the construction lines because they're not so necessary. I'll take off the D4D lines. The D4D lines, basically, this line here marks the inside of the tear duct, and that line marks the outside of the iris. Now, here's another construction line. How about the golden triangle? From the dead center of the vortex, sorry, the outside edge of the D4D vortex, in the center line of the overall structure, it goes all the way down to the bottom of the overall structure. And that is the golden triangle. We are literally made in his image. We are made in the image of the underpinnings of nature. So we have the Sothic triangle going from the center to the outside boundary here. We have the golden ratio going from the center line of here up to the outside of here. And this is where normally the peak in the beauty or the line goes out and goes to where you should have the arch in the eye. And I guess if you have your mouth open, I mean, the corner of the jawline, you see where the corner of the jawline is. So, golden triangle. Sothic triangle. The Sothic triangle is this. It's this flow up in this volumetric sense. It's this flow up in the volumetric sense. Okay? Now, why? Just for completion, it isn't just the T here, okay? There's also something we're missing here, and that is the all-seeing eye. Simply, we've just put another Visa Pisces centered off the center here using the same construction size circles, okay? So if I get rid of the rest, not an owl, Cosmic Dave. No, not an owl. I will, of course, share these construction lines and people can try them on any face they like. So basically, I'm just missing the center line there. I can put that in. Get rid of. That's the center line I want. I'm just going to get rid of the extra construction lines there. So we just have the... Okay. And... So it's the same circle repeated over and over. There we go. And so you see all of this kind of symbology, and you can see where the Masons had this sacred line and spot, ring spot. Sothic triangle is coming. There we go. So that is why I kind of like the Coptic art there, because the Coptic art shows precisely every aspect of this. Interestingly, it does look like something might have been deleted from here, but it might have just been the chisel marks. Okay. So we take out put those in, and we got the triangle, and then we'll bring in the Sothic triangle here. Okay, so if I take out this, and that's that, and I take out those, and I can just take that off. So that there. Now notice that in the Sothic triangle it has this little section taken out of here. Okay? What does that remind us of? Is it this bit here where the depressurization zone occurs? Could be. I think it is. On the Amasa gas versus tungsten, like I say, it's slightly offset, but the depressurization zone here, it's essentially exactly in the center of this area here. So I think that this is the deconstruction of matter zone, okay, of maximum deconstruction of matter. If this is a propulsion technology, as I've argued in the past, if I go back to the volumetrics here, you are having, it's easier to see on this, you have depressurization of the vacuum here, and so the faster this goes, the faster it can go, because it sucks in and it feeds off the matter as it's traveling, and it produces a beam behind. Now I won't go to the paper from 2021, which was funded by basically every major science government in the world, and done on a supercomputer in China, where they did a torus in plasma and found that there was a beam, and they did ISO magnetic lines, and on the outside of the fractal toro, which they just showed as an ISO magnetic field, they showed 1.36 thousand Teslas, and they also showed that there was a beam coming down the center. And I have that graphic. I have that graphic combined with the image from Lion, which I originally got excited about because I saw ionic column, but I can't find it right now, and I'll have to do that in another presentation. I'll produce some smaller presentations. But why did this concern me so much? I've said because it is depressurizing here in this beam, and what happened was, this is something that one Podkletnov had said. So if I can find Mourning. He's not the only guy. Obviously, John Hutchison had the same issue. He had material falling apart, and I've shown in his experiments where that occurred. So we have the Sothic triangle here on a break line in Lion. We have the vortex structures in Vega and Echo. This is in a Hutchison sample with the soft Sothic structure in the aluminium, because it is paramagnetic and so on. And in the iron, you got the Sothic triangle on the break line with the pseudomonopoles that tore this metal apart in a cold sense. But Eugene Podkletnov showed that when he had a spinning superconductor, he could produce a beam that could communicate at least 64 times the speed of light, which speaks to this fractal toroidal interaction with the condensate. He also said that under the device there was a zone where there was a disruption and intermingling of dissimilar materials, exactly like John Hutchison observed. Intermingling of dissimilar materials. Okay, so this is not surprising. Now, if we go back to our structure here, we have two types, and we have the beginning in the form of alpha. Alpha, and then we have the end in the form of omega. Okay, now if you take alpha, you can slot that under omega, and you get the overall heart shape. Alpha is taking the spirit, the chi, I like to call it the relic neutrino condensate, or more specifically, in the broader term, the dark matter, and condensing that into ordinary matter. This is the process of creation on this side, with the vortex in one way, going into the central Maltese cross, okay? And then this is deconstruction. This is the other type of vortex, which can break, right? This is a maker and a breaker. This is a representation of the maker. This is the breaker. This is the yin, the yang, the black and the white, the duality of the universe. Okay? And it has the same where they can link together, and it's in a loop, right? One is making, and it can give that over to the one that's breaking. It's one is making, it can give that over to the one that's breaking. And the Masonic, they have, pillars. Like, they have pillars. That's what they do, right? You have your Maltese cross. You have your flower. It's all there. Now, on the breaker side, maker and breaker can both be dangerous. And this is where I have to show, I've shown you what it does in hydrodynamics. I've shown you what it does when a Mars gas is on a piece of tungsten. I've shown you that it is ripping matter apart. What is happening in, if we go back to it, in this, not that one. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Okay. We have two types of vortex structure. One will be a maker, one will be a breaker in the Shak-Paranoff experiments. Okay? Making monopoles. Okay? But they do something which is very weird. They do this. Some can create something that are glowing objects at a distance. And some can make a dark, would appear to be zero albedo object at a distance. Okay. This is a technology that can dump energy through a space-time where there is nothing affected in between into a spherical zone. This is a structure that can extract energy from an area in space-time and pull it over here. Now I have to go back to the very first patent that I shared on remote view. What am I referring to? I'm referring to the patent by Lockheed Martin, Systems and Methods for Creating Coherent Matter Waves. Okay? This is an electron condensate. Okay? What Shak-Paranoff is saying here is that this is a superconducting structure of electrons. We know that that's what the EVOs are. We know that Podkletnov, creating his disruption beam, was creating superconducting electrons and then spinning them. Okay? This is not a mystery. So, they are having shoulders, emitters here, putting it through a kind of piece of two pieces of brass like we have in Vega, creating a coherent matter wave. What can you do with a coherent matter wave? What you can do with a coherent matter wave is somewhere here. you can do this. Matter wave solitons. All right, where is it? Single bath thermal energy extraction. Single bath thermal energy extraction. That, my friends, is what you are seeing here. This is a single bath in space-time, and this energy is being extracted here. It's being extracted without affecting the material surrounding it. Energy, but it's worse than that. It is ripping matter apart. It is taking the chi out of the matter such that it cannot be in a stable form. Now, remember what Shishkin said in the translated paper. All matter is taking from the vacuum and giving back to keep the atom stable. You are sucking the chi energy out of this. Now, this is my issue here. You have one method where you can put energy into a place and you can cause something to occur. Another one is you can pull energy out. Now, the specific way that this, I believe, is occurring is in a way that is changing the relationship between the amount of dark matter that's there in the form of relic neutrinos. It may be going through a dark matter thread, okay, but it's only on the convergence points where it occurs. But what this enables things to do are two horrific weapons just for starters. One, you can pull the electrons and the chi energy out of someone's heart at a distance at any point in space. And that will give them a heart attack. You can pump relic neutrinos or energy into someone's brain and it will cause the 1 in a trillion atoms, which is a lot per mole, because you got 10 to the 23 and it's only 10 to the 12, but one in every trillion atoms is carbon-14. That will force it to decay. You will get instant cancer. They can target people to turn off their hearts, which is something that I understand that the Masons say that they can do to people, right? And they can cause cancer in a person. But they could dump energy into a geological fault using this technology, right? Which is what is being said by Tom Bearden in 1986. Okay? I do not think that Romanian senator is wrong when they say they are not going to participate in the games. And they know that it was a warning shot where they attacked in this last time. Now, I don't know the veracity, but she knows that this technology has been around for a long time. If you want to create a weather system because you wanted to create a phantom, I don't know, global whatever nonsense climate change, you can dump energy into one point of space of time, and you can extract energy from space-time. You have a hot and a cold zone, and you create a weather system. This is the God's toolbox with a little g. They are literally psychopaths, and they want people to die en masse. I'm not joking. Now, the specific risks, okay, with the experiment from GEET reactors is one, I already shared a video where a previous GEET researcher has seen exactly what we've shown from Henk Uren's experiments and from the experiments of David Boutlier. We captured on camera coherent matter traveling waves, okay? Coherent matter traveling waves. And we have, that is what is the basis for this patent. Coherent matter traveling waves. And they use a Shoulders discharge emitter, and they use Aharonov bomb effect, just a magnet across magnetic field across some coupled resonant cavities. But it doesn't matter. This is overcomplicating it. The Vega experiments do this, okay? This is an awarded patent to Lockheed Martin. They're serious players. And what they are saying it can do, you can see here, single bath thermal extraction. But it's worse than that. It is worse than that, my friends. It is literally tearing matter apart, okay? And now you probably understand why I turned to Alan in 2019 and said, when people understand what this image implies, actually at that stage I didn't have the construction lines on it, to be fair. What this implies is that matter can be ripped apart. Okay? And this is omega. It is the yin yang. One of these structures has both. It is the maker and the breaker. But depending on which level of fractal it is, whether it's a north or a south, as you might call it, but it's not really a north and a south. It's a type of toroidal beam and another type of toroidal moment beam. Because they always go round this way, let's say, but one might be spinning this way and one might be spinning that way. So it's right-handed or left-handed. Okay, one is the breaker, one is the maker. I cannot overstate. This is a reality. It's been a reality since probably 1950s in the modern era. Some might call it the Holy Grail. Was this what the Roman Catholic Church was looking for in the Middle East? I'm almost certain it was. Was this what a certain German dictator was looking for, and the reason why he had two symbols, the Maltese cross and the swastika on the flag? I'm pretty certain in saying that was the case. This is the great power that Jesus spoke of. He went to the areas of the world and spent 18 years in the desert and showed at least a good selection of the party tricks that should reasonably be logically possible from this technology. It's the truth, the way, and the light, my friends. Yeah, there's the golden triangle. It's all in there. It's all in there. And we are made in the image of this technology. So the first thing is the coherent matter traveling waves. Those can be shielded to a degree by the Shishkin patent-free method, and that has silver. The silver was showed by Russ George in early 1990s, when he was doing a palladium, deuterium, and I think it was even ultrasonics experiments. I think even at SRI, maybe not have been at SRI, but anyway, he saw this flux coming out of the reactor because nothing, and then somehow some metal got in the way, and then he found out that if he kept changing the metals, he found he got the most so-called neutrons when he put silver in front. And he went to Edward Teller and asked him what's going on. He says, this might be these things called mashunigons, which is a Hebrew word meaning, I don't know, something mysterious. Okay, but anyway, that is this strange radiation coming out. That effectively, when it hits a impedance change, it can get excited or broke up. But when it hits silver, the most conductive element, there's a load of sea of electrons on the front there. It excites the dark mode exotic vacuum object into white mode. It then can explode and produce these birdies. But in the silver, it produces breaking radiation. And that then produces X-rays and maybe even gamma rays. And they are then picked up by the counter. So it wasn't normal neutrons, and it wasn't X-rays or gamma rays per se. It was because of the silver playing a role. Now, in the work of Tesla from the 1890s or whatever, he looked at this thing called dark light, which he went in another room and he would use phosphor, whenever it was in the early 10s or something, a phosphor screen, and he would be able to project images of his bones or whatever onto the phosphor. The phosphor at the time would have been zinc sulfide, and the dark light would have been these exotic vacuum objects or etheric matter streams, and they were partially absorbed by his body and then able to interact and leave images on the screen. Now, zinc sulfide is one of the secondary compounds that goes with the silver in the protection for this.
And so you excite the Evo by having the silver powder, and then it goes into the zinc sulfide or strontium aluminate. And they then capture the excited Evo in the photosite of those fluorescent materials and bleed out the electrons in a way that is, draining them. So it's a shield, and you mix that with latex. So this is something that you can put around your reactor, or you can literally paint on gloves or things that you're wearing. So we know 100% certainly that a GEAT reactor has been able to produce strange radiation in the form of coherent matter waves leaving a reactor. I shared the video. Okay. Now, I spoke to an experienced GEAT builder who worked with Paul Pantone. He says he knows how to kind of stop those kind of weird things going on. He didn't know how to assess the radiation output, so I don't know whether it stopped, but certainly some of the things that are most obvious, he found out how to stop. The more concerning thing is this extracting energy or dumping energy into a distant point, which is represented here, dumping energy into a distant point, and here extracting energy out of a distant point. But this second one offers an unbelievable opportunity. And I said I would get to this. I'd partially done it, but let's do this now. Okay. So here's our Shakparanov triangle, estimated from his work, very, very close to the Sothic triangle, most likely to be the Sothic triangle. Okay. Now, if we assume it's the Sothic triangle, we have had not a transmission option for energy. We have had an option for, how should we put this? For energy generation or condensing and converting into other forms. So, for instance, taking thermal phonons or IR, basically the same kind of thing, and converting those into either higher frequency light or even to matter. And how would we do that? I don't know. Maybe we could look at the 1914 patent of Nikola Tesla. And what you have at the top is a D4D ratio. Okay, and if you notice, these are little plasma bulbs, okay, and they can create the so-called etheric matter. I'll talk about more about a plasma globe and how that's working and how that relates to research that's been recently shared from Russia and what the inflow and outflow is going on in there. But you have it going around like this and going round and round and round and round and round in the center. You'll notice that as this comes round, this is actually inside this. It's inside here. So the vortex is coming around here, right? So if the vortex is coming around in this direction, okay, normally this would fly off into the sky, but it's held down, okay? And this would project a dark matter field, sucking dark matter in from above, and it would ordinarily suck, sorry, let me get that right. It's sucking energy out of somewhere, but let's just throw on something here. This is the Sothic triangle. From the center, from the baseline, if you go from the outside of the baseline of the drawing, it's exactly the angle of the Sothic triangle. Okay? But it's not like that, because we know from our construction here that the Sothic triangle starts in the Christ center. Okay? In the Christ center. At the center of the D4D torus. That's where the Sothic triangle comes down. Okay? So, if we are to position this top point here in the center of the D4D structure, you end up with it extracting energy from the Earth. Or, by the way, dumping energy in the Earth, depending on your torus. Okay? So, one or the other. But if you had... We've shown in our Vega experiments, Henk Uren's Vega experiments, that when one of these structures blows up, and it can literally suck the energy out of the ground. But this is single bar thermal extraction. Now, you might just need to have temperature in form of phonons coming in from the rock, Or you can have flowing water under here. If you had flowing water under here, this could produce unimaginable amounts of energy. By single bar thermally extracting, using the coherent matter that forms a vacuum current. And the vacuum current projects a toroidal moment. It's kind of like up and back. But we've seen that the depressurization of the vacuum and the single bar thermal extraction goes on down here. Okay? It goes on down here. Because we've physically seen that in here. It's physically ripping this matter apart and extracting energy out. And what it's extracting out is the hidden energy in matter. This is in the CIA declassified document where people are talking in 1992. It was published in 2017 on the CIA's website. I've referred to it on a Facebook. I think I also got it on remote view. But it's extracting the hidden energy in matter. And at the same time, it's pulling it apart. But if you didn't extract it too much, or you had the water flowing through, then because water is able to keep these this stuff bound to it, dissolved in the oxygen. So I would suggest that this is an energy generator. It's using the energy generation process, which is personified by this and exemplified by the hydrodynamic process you're seeing here, and by this gas and smoke process you are seeing here, and by this volumetric process here in the Omaza gas on 10 yen coin. Okay. It is using a process that has been known to man for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. At least since whoever taught the Egyptians how to do this showed them that the point of decomposition of matter, in the center of the projected Sothic triangle, okay, is down here, okay? All right. So, do we have any questions? Yeah, the pyramid would probably be doing something similar to this. I think there was water flowing below the Bosnian pyramid as well. I have some slides in Ode referring to the Bosnian pyramid, which I will share at some point. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you desperately need to have water, but since, you know, you could set up a potential either way. Either you dump energy into the ground, or you extract energy from the ground. But either way creates a potential difference. Okay, and it would drive this vortex structure. And by the way, because you have etheric matter coming out, you have the toroidal moment coming out of the top, yeah. If you had a bunch of these towers, you could focus the toroidal moment like in a phased array, and you could literally destroy matter that way. Okay, so or if you had this going around the other way, you could destroy matter that way. So these things were, I mean, actually on the Jerry Vassilatos book, it shows the beam, the death ray beam coming from the top of the tower. But either way, it doesn't really matter. This can be used producing generating energy. And note that from the top of this tower, this is so precise. The field of influence of this Sothic triangle doesn't go outside the wood. Okay? Doesn't go outside the wood. Okay? And the actual core, and it doesn't matter because, as I say, the area of extraction is below any of the structure. It's below any of the structure. So if this is the area of the extraction, it's so precise. The Sothic area of extraction would be down here, below the foundations and any of the electronics and everything. It's a thing of incredible beauty. It's a thing of incredible beauty, and the Egyptians knew it. They knew it, or someone told them how to do this, right? And this is it. You are seeing it here. Single bar thermal extraction. Right, so how does this apply to the GEAT reactor? Let me do that whilst we're here. Why not? It's the question you didn't know you were asking. So I would recommend. I'm making a clone locally, but if you want to go and get 4K downloader and download this presentation, please. It might seem bonkers now, but I'm pretty certain that as you look through anything, the world will be repeating these patterns. In fact, every time you look in someone's face, you're going to see this now, and you won't be able to unsee it now you've seen it. It's a thing of great beauty. Right, so this is from Paul's book. Like I say, you can't get it. Now, this is what he was thinking. That like sulfur's coming in here. So if sulfur's coming in here, it's splitting up into two oxygen 16s. Now, it may be that you have a breaker here. I don't know how good the breaker is, but certainly the maker is very good. I suspect the maker is doing most of the work, and you'll actually get mostly silicon and oxygen being formed. Okay, but when you have the right shape of this, ideally, you will have a toroidal vortex in here, and back projected from it will be our Sothic triangle. And in this zone here, you will have an intense vacuum because it's depressurizing. As I've showed you, it's depressurizing. And from here, you'll have single bar thermal extraction, but you'll also have destruction, in my view, of the vacuum. And that vacuum energy will be pulled in here along with all the rest of it. And so you have a really interesting thing going on here. Now, into the rod, you will have the fractal toroidal moment going, okay? So dark matter is going one way and real matter is going in the other, but it's also being deconstructed because there's a point of focus that the fractal toroidal moment deals with. So that is essentially kind of what's going on. It will be doing subnuclear reactions if it's at the right level. That's what it is. And what you are seeing here is effectively a yin-yang, but in a linear form. And so you will get some field coming out of here. And because it's fractal, the substructures will be orthogonal. And so when they destabilize and break up, you will have a lesser distance of the single bar thermal extractions going on, but you will also have ejections of coherent matter traveling waves. So if you have a very unstable reactor, you will have this thing regularly blowing up, and it will be shooting out, like it does in the Vega experiments, coherent matter traveling waves, and they are at high risk. If you have a stable reactor, you might just have an intense Sothic projection around the dark matter collection in front, the destabilization of matter over here. And so it could be, quite nice, really. But you have to be aware that if this thing swings round for whatever reason, it's going to cause problems. Plus, as I said, a big ball lightning often breaks off into self-similar structures. They will go into the cylinders, and when you detonate those with a spark, the spark's magnetic field from the disruptive discharge there will destabilize the EVO, and you will get Coulombic explosions as the electrons come back into their charged state and then coulombically repel. This will be a cold transition process, but anytime when it's destabilizing here or in the reactor, this will produce an electromagnetic pulse, and it will be broad spectrum, because whatever level of fractality you have on the self-similar structure that's broken off, that will have substructures of toroids in the fractal toroidal structure, and when these blow up, they will produce a spectrum of their own EMP spectrum. Okay, so You would be able to monitor these reactors by using an AM radio, and it doesn't matter about the metal, just like it didn't matter in the Vega experiments, because the EMPs will go through that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to take another break, brief break here, and then to visit the boys' room. And then I'm going to take your questions, and I'll do a quick review. And we're mostly done today. But the GEET is a real technology in my view. It's currently got a proponent out there that's not being honest about the fact that this is essentially patent free. Don't expect someone else to do it. Do what you can to make this advance. Do not expect reward. One should learn from the Bhagavad Gita on expectation. Okay, so you have two Maltese crosses here, essentially. You have a flux loop here, and effectively these two Maltese crosses are the Christ centers of a D4D structure, and they are on the capital of these columns. It is not a coincidence that they are on the capital of the columns. Flux energy or matter is extracted or dumped. So if this is alpha, this is extracting energy from the ether. And sorry, if you're in the way, it'll extract it from you as well. It doesn't care whether there's matter in the way or not in the way, because it'll just extract the etheric matter. Etheric matter. And it will pull this in and it will convert it into ordinary matter. Okay, this is alpha. This is the beginning. So this is ordinary matter. There is a soliton flux loop, and it will go through, and there will be an evil twin, which is our omega, the end. And the matter is deconstructed, and it's passed off down to another area as etheric matter. Okay? And if there is ordinary matter in the way, like oxygen and nitrogen, this will glow, and it may even get hot. If there is ordinary matter down here, it will get, dark. And basically be deconstructed. Okay, so the maker is also a deconstructor if there's matter in the way, right? It projects it through the torus. This is the flux. This is the wormhole. So this is kind of like, oh God, how should we put this? If there's matter here, it will be a point of electronuclear collapse. But this is more electro. Well, actually, this is. The one's regeneration and collapse, but it's like it's fractal, so it's both. It's always both. Within every one of us is the ability to make or destroy. Okay, it then becomes a choice. All right, and the two angels. This is you could say that the alpha is the angel of light, and the omega is the angel of death. But they're both the same. They're in each other, right? Because the angel of making matter can suck the life out of something in doing so, right? So like if you're a mother and you're trying to have a baby, you have to eat food, don't you? Things have to go in to create. You have to take to make, okay? And then at the end of your life, you give that back, and you're decreated, and you're put back into the resource pool from dust to dust. Okay, from ashes on the ground to ashes. Okay, it's the circle of life. So, saying that the yin is the correct one or the yang is the correct, it's the neither. They're both as good as each other. I know this is like a weird, and it might sound all a little bit Masonic, but that is what it is. When you look out our yin and yang here, you have the white within the black, and you have the black within the white, and it is a circle. It is a circle. And where you have to do is take no more than you need. And that is the center. That is the center. You're neither over here and you're not over here. You are centered. Okay? You don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. You want to be here. This is the perfect calm. This is in balance. This is homo symbion. This is symbiotic relationship with nature. Okay. So this was Mourning, not Mourning. This is O'Day Mourning. Hopefully, with this presentation, you can know implicitly that this is the way it is. That these tools, which are the power of God incarnate, are likely to be being used against us because it can be, and because the psychopaths that want to control and rule over us. So the decision I made in 2017 was, what do I do? Do I accept that we will be subjugated by this, having known that during the event this was used, and the death and mayhem that ensued after that, and the freedoms being taken away, subjugating every man, woman and child on this planet so that some may lord it over us, right? Or do we as a species not sit down and take this up the posterior? And do we call it out for what it is and get this planet back into balance? If we are only worshipping things, we can't identify with the divine. And the divine is both good and evil. Sorry, it is. And what is evil? Well, they might think that they are justified in correcting the balance on the planet by getting rid of a load of useless eaters. But actually, the reality is the planet can support trillions of people. And we're already finding our balance. In most nations on planet Earth, we are below replacement ratio. We are below replacement ratio. The argument for encouraging euthanasia is that, well, there isn't enough going around, or there's not enough young people to pay for the pensions or whatever. Let's raise the pension age until it's past date people die. No one should live in dignity because there's not enough young people to suck their life force out of them and to pay for. No, the whole thing is underpinned by energy. No economy in the last 170 years has predictably grown without an increasing use of energy. But the energy is being misused in terms of it's not efficiently used. That can be dealt with. And is the wrong type of energy. We've had a solution where Mother Earth, the planet that we live on, can provide all of the energy we need in such abundance that no one needs to be cold. No one needs to be without water. No one needs to be without food. We do not need to flood rainforests. We do not need to chop up birds. We do not need to pollute the ground with solar cells. We do not need to do all of the nasty stuff. We have within our grasp the tools to save this planet the biosphere, or we can sit back, let them take a large red hot poker and probe us until we submit, right? Using the tools that can save everything. Now, I have one proviso, that the one proviso is this, that if you use too much toroidal moment, it may affect the geomagnetic anchoring of the crust on the mantle. That aside, and we know this from the event with the 7 magnetometers in Alaska. But with responsible use and balanced use, firstly, using this technology to not waste fuel, and then to make other things into fuel. I very much like the idea of being able to get berry juice. Just go out and get berries. And, I mean, I don't want to take everything from the birds, but, you should be able to use this technology to make any matter into energy, because you have this process. You have this process of extracting the hidden energy in matter and then deconstructing the matter and passing it through. And in the process, you create fields which you can harness energy off to do work. Okay? And the energy within matter is so immense, it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind. The intensity. You only have to be extracting an incredibly small amount to support all of your needs. What you're seeing in this image is right there what the Lockheed Martin patent is saying. Coherent matter, which is said to be in here, and we pretty much certain it is, because we absolutely certainly have coherent matter in the Vega experiments, absolutely certainly in the Ultra experiments. So, it can produce single bar thermal extraction. This should not be in any doubt in anyone's mind. And it does do this. It does do this at a distance. It does this through ordinary matter. It is doing it through ordinary matter and extracting from a distance. It is doing this through ordinary matter and producing this depressurization zone at a distance. Okay? And the answer was there since 1914. It is the same thing. It is not a coincidence that this is the ratio of the Sothic triangle. It is no coincidence whatsoever. But what I have proved to you today, I believe, is that the center point of the top of the Sothic triangle is the center point of the D4D torus, which is in the center point of the yin-yang, the absolute stillness. And that if you place that, the point of single bar thermal extraction is below the structure of the Tesla tower. And therefore, you will be able to convert low-grade photons in the terahertz range, pull that energy and etheric matter through and cohere it at this point here, the Christ center. And you will be able to yield electrons, probably matter, and other stuff, but photons, whatever. You'll be able to create power. Alternatively, you can dump it into the ground. Right? There's one or the other. I believe a GEAT reactor would be best on a tower. Okay? It's just my opinion. Or certainly vertically. Using this technology, by taking your toroidal structures and moving apart, or creating the electromagnetic waves to induce toroidal moments in the ground, like using the Duga arrays, you can induce earthquakes. And that, I believe, is what the Romanian senator is saying. And the reason that they want to do that is because they want to cut off the remaining major oil and gas. They prevented oil and gas from coming from Qatar through Syria. They blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, and now they're trying to completely cut off Europe from energy. There will only be, well, they did a good job with Libya. You have to see how long this game is being played for, and we're in end times now. You know, this is Revelations. I don't know how much more I can say it. You know, we have the solution. It's ours to take and ensure that we deliver it. That's it. That's it. Let me see if I can get that map. I think I've done enough. Right, I'm going to answer your questions. Okay, so I'm going to see if you've got any questions. If you've got some questions you asked before, I'm going to read from the bottom, so I'll come down and look from there. Okay. Okay, so creating awareness said, so if you get Geet Rod vertical, how can you determine where the gather point will be? Well, I think we have the maths in these images that I'm sharing you, right? So, for instance, he's asking where that point would be, where it's deconstructing matter and pulling in etheric energy. The etheric energy will diffuse into a space, volume, in time, but you want matter there because it can get the etheric energy out of the third part of. So you have electrons, protons, but you have this, according to Shishkin, this condensed cluster of cold neutrinos, and that has a lot of energy in it as well. And what you do is when you deconstruct the matter, you get the electrons and the protons and the neutrons, and actually you can break that up as well with the toroidal moment. But you have this, you only need to go over 5 electron volts, right? And I didn't share it the other day, but there's a paper where when you get hydrogen atoms excited, and then you hit them with a cold electron, which you're going to have a bucket load coming from the outside of the plasma, this will get the H- ion into an excited state above 5 electron volts. So this may actually be how part of the mechanism behind the HHO and so on, but it doesn't matter, it works. And so there will be a projection area, and we know you can go and do the math yourself if you want, but basically we know the height of the Wardenclyffe Tower to this point, and we know the ratio of the Sothic triangle. And if I go back to my image here, and I will share this image here, you know the center point of here. So this is the danger zone. So you want this danger zone to be in a clean piece of rod. And ideally maybe in a bigger volume, and so this is where your matter will have its energy extracted from, and that kind of keeps the torus going. So you can see it here in the alien scientist image. So where is it? Here. So it's pulling it in on this Sothic ratio. So like the Sothic triangle here to the boundary of this, the straight line across there gives you the Sothic triangle into the Christ center. And yeah, so you just got these things being pulled in. So this is the zone down here. And it's kind of like a combination between something that comes down here to here. And it might actually be, where is it? Blah, 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 blah. Not that. It might be like in this area here with the golden ratio for the focal point of the reverse moment here. Okay, so how should we put that? Where's our here? I mean, it's within that zone that the deconstruction of the matter is occurring. But yeah, so I think we can work out, because this is so precise. It's very, very, very precise. So if you're, let's say you had the end of your rod was that big, then you can work out from this diagram how big your torus would be, and then you'll be able to work out precisely how where this point of deconstruction is within this Sothic triangle zone. Bob, you've just spoken about Mike Tyson not how to throw a punch. How is this to be utilized? How will people and the average Joe actually use this? Do you need to go to B&Q and buy the construct? So actually, I can show you here. Henk, in his spare time after doing a long day at work, actually sent me his first working Geet implementation. But we have another guy who's very experienced and worked with Paul Pantone. I had a long conversation with him yesterday, and he's willing, with a bit of support maybe, to come and help us go straight to the end game in terms of having something that we can then test and look for things in the SEM and using the process gas mass spectrometer. So let me just pull that up. So it's where did you send it, Hank? Here we go. So right. So this is his reactor, his generator, and he's modified it, and so on. So from going from zero to hero in about a week, in his spare time. So this can happen, but like I say, don't expect anyone else to do it for you. But as I said, I don't think people, if it's going to cost you, 1 month or 2 months or 5 months of your time to get right, and apparently according to this guy, it's harder to work on small engines than it is on bigger ones, then I would like to see something work on waste and be big enough to power a home, and then it be something that people can buy off the shelf. I think what Pantone proved, and he was under some difficulties, but he proved that the pyramid model of trying to get this out to the world didn't work. And that looks like the same kind of model that this other group are using, who are pretending they're not doing a Geet reactor, but it obviously is, in my opinion. It might not be, but it looks like it is. And anyway, it doesn't matter, because the Geet reactor will do what they're saying their reactor will do, and you don't have to ask their permission to do that. But if there are people out there that are making devices, everyone can make an internal combustion engine. The basics are not patentable. But what they do is they change the rules so that you have to have an engine that produces a very low amount of exhaust waste, and it has to do a certain miles per gallon, and then you're allowed to sell that engine. Now, if you leapfrog right to the end, so it does all of the miles per gallon possible, and it does no pollution, then they've got to, they've got to change the rules to make it not possible for you to do any damage to global warming, like to make it not possible. Anyway, you know what I mean. Basically, they've got to be absurd in their logic, and so that's kind of where we want to be. And so, appropriately, it would be a big car manufacturer or a big engine manufacturer that would employ this technology directly, but it has to be the people that make it so absurd, their position. It's only when it becomes so absurd, when their lies are utterly ridiculous, and everyone knows they're utterly ridiculous, that the emperor has no clothes, can you affect change. Okay? So, the sky's falling in. The end of the world. Let us tax you more. Right? You have to subjugate to this. You can only fly once a year. You can only live within 5 kilometers of your home. You're only allowed to eat meat on Shrove Tuesday or something. I don't know. But you need to get rid of all of that. I like cows. I really like cows. I like what they do. They're passive animals. They're sacred in the Hindu faith, and that's good enough for me. Three. I'm not saying that they were making these thousands of years ago, but they were using the principles and they understood them, right? Um, how many high technology cars did we have when Tesla produced his Wardenclyffe Tower drawings initially? And he's only playing catch up. It's clear that he referred to hidden technology. He absolutely has to have done, because he didn't guess the Sothic ratio there. He didn't guess the 4D D4D ratio. He worked that out. He either worked it out, or he bothered to look at people that had already worked it out from nature. Yeah, ranchers are really, they should be on board. So, in the event that we get cut off from each other, and maybe even just for general purposes, do you think we could do some sort of workshop training to teach us how to build an at-home geek reactor? I think that will be possible with this guy that I spoke to yesterday. He's already done that. He supposedly has the rights, having spent some money gaining the rights, but I don't know what the rights mean now. I mean, I believe we're going to understand more in the next couple of months and this year on how, in the public sphere, maybe something's been understood in the black sphere, but I haven't seen videos that share anything more than a kind of like rough speculation based on the inputs and outputs. And we're going to be wrong also, but we have to do the best we can. Right. Kathy B, how did Sumerians use this knowledge in a practical manner? I don't, you know, who's making those lanterns? I don't know. Maybe it was the overlords at the time that had access to the technology and were going on and off planet. I don't know. But the technology is codified in their art, and so like you think about art generally. People celebrate their most brilliant things in art that they want to keep and treasure, and so it's not a surprise that that is in there. The fact that it's such precise ratios and it shows the process exactly, and that is from the Sumerians, and then the Coptic Christian art there, which is derived from actually the ring and the circle with the two lines, that symbol of Masons. It is from Ra, which is, you know, and the two serpents. It's from Egyptian work as well. So whoever taught the Egyptians how to do this, they knew. So that's their story. This is a universal truth. It will be the same at any point in the universe, and you just have to study nature, and you will discover it. You just have to spend time looking at it. And what we've shown today is literally charge separation, which is forming ions. Ions were given their name because of these vortical structures, and that goes back to something that was put into artistry by the people that for the first time developed the scientific method and observational science, and decided that was an important thing to make in architecture. And it's the central column in a Masonic temple. This is not a coincidence. The energy is flowing up into the column, into the vortex. That is what you've got here. That is what you have here. The energy is flowing up here into the vortex. It's exactly what you've got here. There's a line. In fact, the best demonstration of it is the one going into. You can see the fractal toroid on the side in the Vega experiment. This is the most precise one because it actually shows it more as a beam when you've got a pure coherent structure, and that is what we need to be aware. It could be a very, very specific beam, and I will get there at some point today. It's one of these on surfaces. No, not that one. That one? No, not that one. That one. Okay. So I'll take out the golden triangle there. So here you can see it's a beam. It's literally a beam, and it goes down for quite some distance. And this would be, in my view, the beam that Podkletnov saw, where it disrupted material. Okay. So So like I say, the dark matter comes in from the top and gets shoved through, and the ordinary matter comes through. But there is this depressurization here of the vacuum, and matter falls apart and it flies in. So you get a deconstructed matter and dark matter entering some sort of reaction and being reborn as new matter. So turn off that. Okay, and then I will turn off the yin yang. So you can see how the impression of the torus from here across this line. So this would be the flux loop, but you're only seeing where it's 50% through, because the magnetic or the still part is in the middle. So a vacuum object a torus would go in and it would be 50% in. So you get to see the influence of the disruption beam. And here you get the kind of, this is actually like disruption beams, but disruption beams going around in a loop because it's a closed loop. Okay, so what you're seeing here is an open structure, and you're seeing a closed fractal substructure here. Okay. Have a bit of Deepak Chopra. There we go. Bit of third eye action there. Thank you, Terran Art, for the super chat. That's very kind of you. Thank you to those others that gave me a super chat. I think there was one or two earlier. I don't know. Yeah, the beam is braided, and it is a twisted pair in my view, and that is what you get. I mean, it's what they have in that pillar. I mean, it's twisted spiral going up to the center. It's so precise. It's so precise. It's unimaginably precise. The beginning and the end, but it is all the one. Three is asking a philosophical question in relationship to Jesus. I am of the belief that Jesus knew of this technology. He was taught at, I believe, in his period of disappearance and between the age of 12 and 30. And I believe cloning matter, anti-gravity, like walking on water, healing, far sight, and so on. You know, they're all aspects of it. You know, it's, and I guess, I mean, obviously the Coptic Christians kind of come about until after Christ, right? So before then, the people that became Coptics were doing this, you know, and that. They don't give up things like that easily. We know this is important, even if you think this guy's important, right? And the ratio has to be the ratio that you see in this image. It has to be. There's no other choice, because we are made in God's image, and there it is. We are made in God's image. It's a bit difficult to think. Like, I guess the Muslims get this right. They just don't have any effigies. You can't make an effigy of God. So, Gordon, good night. I think I'm nearly done now, anyway. Yeah, there'll be elegant ways to control Geet. Yeah, I'm sure. David, all glass Geet coming soon. Fantastic. Be great to see it. Yeah, this is something I believe in greatly. D2105 cases, Alex, secrecy and compartmentalization must have wasted enormous amounts of funding and endless time. I 100% agree with that. Part of what motivates me to do things in an open way is I don't want, like, life is so precious, and no one should be wasting time doing what someone else has already done. It's like, what is the point, right? If it's already been done, come on, let's move on and do something else. Yeah, or just chill out and make love. That's you know, make babies. There's not enough being made. Hi, Definity. You're going to have to go back on this. This is a presentation I wanted to do for a very, very long time, and it was a case of I needed to have, in my view, what was conclusive. The moment that there was two really seminal moments, I have to say. The one, well, there's the thing that I use for my logo on remote view, which is the two arrows, kind of the bird with the torsional thing below. But it really was the vortex pairs from Lion that you see here, and the vortex and this one as well. Okay, and then another very, very significant moment was the tungsten one here. And when I saw that, having already seen this 2 years previously, so the combination of this and the depressurization down here, which I know is depressurization because the nanobubbles are coming into view because they're expanding and the light is reflecting off them, so we can witness this. The depressurization there, the implications for what is seen in the tungsten here is just absurd. And it's not only that it's the implications, it's what you actually witness. This is actually carbon on here coming out of this zone. I mean, and this is not tungsten, it's a sphere of other material. And I couldn't be certain. And it was really the Shak-Paranoff work here that settled it completely for me. That there are two types of these structures, and one can dump material energy through space-time into a zone at a distance, and another one can extract energy from space-time and single bar thermal extraction, as is defined for a superconducting a condensate of electrons. Can do this at a distance in the Lockheed Martin awarded patent. So they are saying you can do it, you can see you can do it, and we have physically shown for a number of years now that it can be done. How much do you think utilizing light could play into this? Any energy form, when it's in this zone, any energy form, whatever it is going to go to the Christ center. It's going to go to the Christ center. And then, or it's going to come from the Christ center and be dumped here. Okay, so the giver and the taker. This isn't kept from you now. It's not kept. You've got it. The choice is, what do you do with it? You can make and destroy. Well, they've been, as that Romanian politician said, they absolutely certainly knew that this earthquake was going to happen. Right? Just like in the days leading up to the Christchurch earthquake in New Zealand, there was a FEMA team there. It's just like some people had charities and stuff set up, all ready to go for an earthquake in Haiti, of which the countrymen of Haiti got 3% of the money that was donated. He lists in this book a collection of earthquakes that were deliberately made before, What you're seeing now is exactly how it works. Exactly how it works. And that you can do it in the lab, right? Okay, so a couple of programming things. I have spoken to my contact in Japan, and that I've got a couple of dates, a period forward, to go and spend a week with Takaaki Matsumoto. I need to raise some money for that, so if anyone can help out that, it would be great. My contact will be coming with me. He's an English teacher, and so he will be able to translate. Apparently Matsumoto is very excited. I want to talk to him about, the point of electronuclear collapse, as he describes in his book, looks like this point here at the center of the Sothic triangle, and that it goes through a wormhole, which is, as I showed you, in my view, is shown by this thing here. And it can come out and be a white hole at the other end. And these are all things kind of that he represented in his work, and I want to kind of bring this all down and get his view on this. I also want to discuss some of his expertise in the nuclear side of things, and also, if I can, get any better micrographs and imagery that is in his book, so that we can make that an even better than it already is. Um, uh, what that zone, I believe, in the point of extraction here by this central line here and this zone here. If you look at that and then you undo it, it's literally on the mark here. So if I go here, I'm pointing at the screen with my hand, like, I'm not even showing you, am I? Here, this point here. Look at that point. Look at where I've got my mouse pointed there. And now I will switch to the tungsten. That is the point of deconstruction. It's so precise, this Coptic art. It's so precise. Like, it's incredibly precise. I think this is probably the single most valuable piece of stonework on Earth. Thank you, Terran Art. Thank you. That's very kind of you. Okay, so I'm going to probably have a live chat with this guy, Dan. I think it's Dan. Let me just check. Dan Easton. He's an experienced geek builder. And so I look forward to maybe doing a live chat with those people that want to build a geet, and he can share his experiences and so on. Like I said, I had a large talk with him, and I want to categorize or get down absolutely what the risks are, because with the video I shared after Yuri Bajatov died, Dubovik, you can see he gets up in the video and he says, "Do you know how Bajatov died? Do you know how Bajatov died?" And basically, he's saying like it sucks the life force out of you, and so like you don't want to get this thing in your body, so you need to know how far it can reach. What is the safe zone? The fact that this destroys magnetic stripes on things, the fact that it can expose an X-ray through a lead-lined glove, these things are all fairly trivial to explain. Now we know what we're not knowing. Yeah. So if anyone's got any other questions, please go to remoteview.icu and ask them there. And thank you very much for your time. This was O'Day Mourning, not Mourning. So let's not have any death and mayhem more than is already being perpetrated on us. Let's do whatever we can within our capacity to shut down the abuse of this technology by those that would be gods but are just men using it with impunity and in a psychopathic nature where they're so misguided they cannot see the beauty that it can create and the amazing future that we as a species can have in harmony with nature, and upturning all of their lies and obfuscations that they're using to tax us, and we must not let them stop. It affects everyone. If they shut down all of those gas and oil pipelines, or a fraction of them really, running through Turkey, Europe will just become a bloodbath. It's just not going to be good. So we can't we allowed them to stop the gas pipeline through Syria. We allowed them to blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. This is the big game play now, right? They can obviously turn the gas pipeline off in Ukraine, and Europe will be without energy other than buying it from certain people, and this is just disgusting, frankly disgusting what's going on. So on a high note, we are in the day of O-Day, in my view. It's been 2017 really, but first mentioning it 2018, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. It's 5 years. 5 years, over 5 years now since, and I've nearly gone through all the slides. There's a bunch of extra slides to do, but really this is the money shot. This is showing you that both good is in evil and evil is in good. In every bad person there is something good, and in every good person there is something bad, and that is in the yin yang. It is there, and that is because the maker is also a breaker. That the mother also has to consume from nature, and it shares it and gives back to earth. Okay, and with that I will say buenas aires, good night, dobranoc. See you next time.